Chapter 2999. Buzz. The Chaos Immortal Bell instantly expanded in the void. Dazzling golden light blossomed as the Chaos Immortal Bell grew to a height of over 10,000 feet, like a mountain. Wild Sand Literature Network boundless chaotic light surged, forming streaks of chaotic light beams that contain the power of great destruction. Even Ling Xiao could feel an extremely dangerous fluctuation from the Chaos Immortal Bell. Chaos destruction, suppression of the infinite. Tai Xuanxia roared. Endless chaotic light beams shot out from the Chaos Immortal Bell, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they shot towards Ling Xiao. At the same time, the primal Chaos Immortal Bell shook violently. Like an ancient divine mountain, it came crashing down toward Ling Xiao. Under Tai Xuanxia's extreme anger, the Chaos Immortal Bell had completely awakened. Ling Xiao could even vaguely see a figure shrouded in immortal light in the chaotic world around the Chaos Immortal Bell. It suppressed everything and swept across everything, its aura terrifying to the extreme. Immortal Emperor. Ling Xiao almost instantly guessed that Tai Xuanxia must have activated the power left in the Chaos Immortal Bell by the Immortal Emperor, allowing the bell to completely awaken. Even if this attack wasn't as powerful as the Supreme Emperor's attack, it wasn't far off. Buzz. The immortal culling sword buzzed and trembled. The sword light was dazzling. In an instant, it soared across the sky, turning into millions of sword chi, blocking the chaotic light beams. However, in the face of the vast and majestic Chaos Immortal Bell, Ling Xiao felt that it was unbeatable, and his heart palpitated. Ling Xiao couldn't resist such power. Everyone's face turned pale at this moment, their eyes surging with despair. This was because the Chaos Immortal Bell didn't only target Ling Xiao, but also enveloped all of them, including the 12 stone pillars and the land of inheritance. The Chaos Immortal Bell seemed to want to completely destroy this land of inheritance. Rumble. However, at this moment, the 12 stone pillars began to tremble violently. Endless divine light rose, and chaotic mist filled the air. The figures of the 12 ancestor gods on the 12 stone pillars seemed to have become clearer. Terrifying rays of light burst out from the 12 stone pillars in an instant. They shot up into the sky as if they had pierced through the heavens and the earth. The 12 beams of light were vast, and contained the auras of 12 types of Grand Tao. They interweaved with each other, ancient and mysterious, and instantly collided with the chaotic Immortal Bell. Boom. It was as if a star had crashed into the earth. In an instant, divine light rippled for hundreds of millions of feet. The terrifying light spread out in all directions. Ling Xiao realized that the Chaos Immortal Bell was suspended in the void. It was completely bound by the 12 beams of light, unable to budge at all. PFFF. Tai Xuanxia, on the other hand, seemed to have suffered a huge backlash. His face paled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. What? His face was filled with disbelief. This is the Hall of the Gods, a place of inheritance left behind by the 12 elder gods. How dare a mere immortal behave so atrociously here? You're lucky that the 12 ancestor gods didn't directly suppress you. Die. Ling Xiao sneered. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he charged towards Tai Xuanxia with the immortal culling sword in his hand. As the saying goes, take advantage of your weakness. Now that the chaotic Immortal Bell was imprisoned, it was the best time for Ling Xiao to strike. Otherwise, if the chaotic Immortal Bell broke free, Tai Xuanxia would have another tortoise shell. Moreover, Ling Xiao could vaguely guess what was going on. This was the Hall of the Gods. The 12 stone pillars must contain the wills of the 12 ancestor gods. Tai Xuanxia possessed the divine bone, which was why he could sneak into this place. However, the chaotic Immortal Bell, an immortal emperor's supreme emperor weapon, must have disturbed the wills of the 12 ancestor gods. That was why it was imprisoned. Rumble. Sword chi filled the sky. Ling Xiao controlled the immortal culling sword with the great immortal culling art, and unleashed a peerless sword will. Tai Xuanxia's expression changed drastically as he trembled with fear. He instantly shifted to the distance. While dodging the immortal culling sword, he desperately urged the chaotic Immortal Bell to summon it back. Suddenly, Tai Xuanxia was in an extremely difficult situation. He was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. Originally, he wanted to revive the chaotic Immortal Bell to kill Ling Xiao. However, he never thought that such a situation would occur. Without the chaotic immortal bell, he didn't dare to take Ling Xiao's immortal culling sword head-on. He could only flee in all directions. At this moment, Tai Xuanxia couldn't even protect himself. How could he still care about his Dao protector? Puff. Puff. On the other side of the battlefield, blood rained down from the void. The old man's arms were cut off by the profound heaven immortal lord. The old man was also in an extremely miserable state. He was trapped both internally and externally. The origin of poison had almost blurred his consciousness. He could only rely on his instincts to resist the attack of the profound heaven immortal lord. However, the profound heaven immortal lord was a ruthless person. His attacks were ruthless and sharp. The profound heaven sword could destroy everything, which made the old man feel extremely threatened. Swoosh. 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 The profound heaven sword shone brightly in the void. In an instant, it split into billions of sword chi and slashed towards the old man. The old man's eyes were filled with despair and madness. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape this calamity. Tai Xuanxia, I'll take my leave first. Lei Ling's spiritual pet has the origin of poison. You must be careful. The old man roared. He stared at the profound heaven immortal lord in front of him. In an instant, a terrifying emperor's aura filled the air and flames rose. He gave up all resistance. Shrouded in black poisonous fog and flames, he pounced towards the profound heaven immortal lord. The sword chi that filled the sky slashed at the old man, causing him to quickly turn into a bloody man. However, he was already determined to die, so he didn't care about this at all. Oh no! He's going to self-destruct. Ling Xiao glanced at the state of Tai Xuanxia's Dao protector. His face changed. Instantly, he wanted to summon the profound heaven immortal lord back. Boom. However, the old man had already rushed to the front of the profound heaven immortal lord. In a frenzied and desperate manner, he instantly self-destructed. The old man's cultivation had reached the fifth heaven of the immortal lord realm. His strength was unfathomable and extremely powerful. However, because of the origin of poison, he had no choice but to self-destruct. How terrifying was the self-destruction of a fifth heaven of the immortal lord realm. The void was shaking violently. Divine light surged all over the sky. Flames rose like a storm and engulfed the Xiantian immortal lord. There was a trace of worry in Ling Xiao's eyes. After all, the profound heaven immortal lord didn't have much intelligence. That was why she didn't dodge at the first moment. Could she survive the self-destruction of Tai Xuanxia's Dao protector? Chapter 3000. Soon, the light that filled the sky dispersed. The mystic heaven immortal lord held the mystic heaven sword and stepped on the void. His robes fluttered, and he was not hurt at all. The sword intent on the mystic heaven immortal lord also became sharper. His Highness's protector died for nothing. Someone said with a strange expression. He tried his best to self-destruct, but he did not hurt the mystic heaven immortal lord at all. What else could it be other than dying for nothing? Most importantly, the protector was too aggrieved. If not for Little Gold's poison origin, the mystic heaven immortal lord would not have defeated him. But he died in the end. Only the great sun immortal lord was left. At this moment, the great sun immortal lord's eyes turned bloodshot. That was his protector, the person who had grown up with him. He was a loyal servant left behind by his father. To a certain extent, he had entrusted his feelings for his father. But now he chose to self-destruct. The great sun immortal lord could do nothing but watch the old man self-destruct. All of you deserve to die. The great sun immortal lord lifted his head. His hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were bloodshot with despair. He murmured, exuding a monstrous murderous aura. Rumble. The chaos immortal bell also began to tremble violently, as if it wanted to shatter the 12 light beams and return to the great sun immortal lord's hand. Your Highness, it's a pity that your protector is dead. Why don't I send you to see him? Ling Xiao smiled faintly, and his expression was extremely calm. Although he was speaking, his actions were not slow at all. The immortal culling sword split into billions of sword chi in the void, and like an infinite sword formation, it enveloped the great sun immortal lord. Since it was an irreconcilable hatred, Ling Xiao was determined to keep the great sun immortal lord here, and not give him a chance to escape. Clang! The mystic heaven immortal lord stood side by side with Ling Xiao. The mystic heaven sword in his hand hummed, spewing out sharp sword chi, and pointed at the great sun immortal lord. No matter how one looked at it, the great sun immortal bell was not a match for Ling Xiao and the mystic heaven immortal lord. Kill! Ling Xiao roared as he charged towards his highness great sun from the sky. The great slaughter immortal art was a pure emperor art of slaughter, that contained the power of slaughter origin. Ling Xiao had obtained the inheritance of the great slaughter immortal art from the great slaughter immortal lord, and had comprehended the power of slaughter origin. Therefore, when he used the great culling immortal art, he could erupt with supreme power and destroy everything. Kill! His Highness great-grandson also roared and charged toward Ling Xiao. Rumble! An intense battle broke out in an instant. His Highness great son seemed to have gone mad. He executed all kinds of supreme immortal arts and unleashed his unparalleled strength. Even with the immortal slaughtering sword in his hand, Ling Xiao was still fearless. I'm afraid His Highness is going to lose, right? Zhang Chen's eyes were filled with surprise and joy. Big brother Lei Ling is amazing. The hands of the eternal immortal dynasty are too long. They even reached into the hall of the gods. His Highness great son deserves to die. Yunshi Saintis sneered. It seems like the 12 ancestor gods are still protecting our divine tribe. I hope Lei Ling can kill His Highness great son as soon as possible. The will of the 12 ancestor gods can dominate everything. How dare the immortal emperor's chaotic immortal bell behave so atrociously in the hall of the gods? He doesn't know what's good for him. If His Highness great son wasn't that person's son, he wouldn't have been able to enter the hall of the gods. He would have been killed long ago. Shu, keep quiet. That person is a taboo of our divine tribe. You can't talk about him. Let's not talk about anything else. Lei Ling saved my life. If he becomes the son of God of our divine tribe, I'll agree to it. I agree too. His Highness great son started to fight desperately, but he soon fell into a disadvantageous position under the combined attacks of Ling Xiao and the profound heaven immortal lord. The sharp sword chi left streaks of blood on His Highness great son's body, making him look like a bloody mess. He was in an extremely sorry state and miserable state. Although Ling Xiao continued to attack His Highness great son, he was extremely cautious. His Highness great son's methods were extremely strange, and could be said to be impossible to guard against. His Highness great son dared to attack Ling Xiao even when the Chaos Immortal Bell was imprisoned. He probably had other tricks up his sleeve. In the end, His Highness great son was almost covered in blood. Although the Chaos Immortal Bell trembled violently and chimed, and chaotic light rose, it was still unable to break free from the imprisonment of the 12 rays of light. His Highness great son, you can die now. Ling Xiao said plainly as he thrust his sword towards His Highness great son's forehead. His speed was extremely fast like lightning. At the same time, Ling Xiao's body surged with an extremely powerful and ancient aura of time. Freeze! Ling Xiao roared, and the power of the space-time secret technique exploded mightily. The surrounding time and space seemed to have frozen. Ling Xiao's sudden attack was to kill the great-grandson with a single strike, directly killing him with his sword. The main reason was that Ling Xiao felt uneasy, especially towards the end. The uneasy feeling in his heart grew stronger. In the end, he decisively chose to strike first to gain the initiative. Whoosh! The immortal culling sword came across the sky and pierced towards His Highness great son's forehead. His Highness great son was shrouded by the vast power of time, and his entire body seemed to have frozen on the spot. However, Ling Xiao suddenly saw His Highness great son's lips curl into an extremely strange smile. Boom! Before the immortal culling sword could pierce his forehead, His Highness great son exploded in the void, turning into a bloody mist. The bloody mist vibrated in the void, and then instantly merged into the Chaos Immortal Bell in the void. The Chaos Immortal Bell shone brightly. It seemed as if a vast emperor's aura had awakened within it. Boundless chaotic light spread out, as if forming a vast chaotic realm that spread in all directions. In an instant, it enveloped Ling Xiao and the Xiantian Immortal Lord. Rumble! The chaotic realm continued to spread, enveloping the 12 stone pillars, Zhang Chen, and everyone else within it. The dazzling light that shot out from the 12 stone pillars contained an ancient and vast power. It was the aura of the 12 Great Tao origins. Originally, it had imprisoned the Chaos Immortal Bell, but now it seemed as if there was no way for it to break out of the chaotic realm. Whoosh! The void distorted, and His Highness Great Sun appeared in front of Ling Xiao. Lei Ling, do you really think that you are capable of killing me? His Highness Great Sun sneered. He was incomparably cold and aloof, as if he did not take Ling Xiao seriously at all. At this moment, his aura was incomparably strong, and his life origin was vast and majestic. He did not look injured at all. Appearing in the chaotic realm, Ling Xiao immediately felt a throbbing in the depths of his heart. It was as if an ant had appeared in the territory of a divine dragon. It was a kind of awe and shock of life. Is it an immortal lord? Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he looked at the void in the distance. Chapter 3001. In the distant void, chaotic mist lingered and dazzling immortal light bloomed. The chaotic celestial bell floated in the air like a mountain, emitting boundless light. It was ancient and mysterious. However, there seemed to be a mysterious figure above the chaotic celestial bell, exuding a mighty extreme emperor's aura. The entire chaotic realm seemed to exist because of the existence of that figure. Although Ling Xiao could not see the figure clearly, he could not help but suspect that it was the legendary celestial emperor. Who else could control the chaotic celestial bell, save His Highness Great-Grandson, and silently shroud the 12 stone pillars to prevent the 12 Great Tao origin energy from seeping in? It shouldn't be the real celestial emperor. Perhaps it's just a clone that he left on His Highness Great-Grandson's body. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he thought to himself. Clang! At this moment, the profound heaven immortal lord beside Ling Xiao suddenly trembled. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. The profound heaven sword in his hand shone brightly, and a vast extreme emperor's aura filled the air. The profound heaven sword seemed to have completely awakened. The profound heaven immortal lord held the profound heaven sword, and pointed at the figure in the void. He did not hide his terrifying killing intent at all. It felt as though the profound heaven immortal lord had a blood feud with that figure. The figure seemed to have noticed the profound heaven immortal lord, and exclaimed softly. His eyes instantly pierced through the layers of void, and landed on the profound heaven immortal lord. Boom! The majestic aura contained in his eyes was like a mountain, causing the profound heaven immortal lord's clothes to flutter. His aura surged, and a sharp sword intent soared into the sky. The profound heaven immortal lord seemed to have turned into an unsheathed divine sword. Could it be that the profound heaven immortal lord has a grudge against the celestial emperor? Legend has it that the profound heaven immortal lord offended an important figure, which led to the destruction of the profound heaven sect, and the suppression of the profound heaven immortal lord. Could it be? Ling Xiao guessed as thoughts ran through his mind. At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with incomparable terror. They had thought that Ling Xiao would be able to save them after killing His Highness Great-Grandson. They did not expect such an unforeseen event to happen in the blink of an eye. Especially the figure on top of the primal chaos immortal bell. The aura emitted by the figure made their hearts tremble. Lei Ling, if you surrender without a fight, I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, don't blame me for making you wish you were dead. His Highness Great-Grandson's eyes were incomparably cold as he stared at Ling Xiao. This primal chaos realm was indeed formed by the imprint of the immortal emperor. This was also his final trump card, a trump card that could suppress everything. No matter how strong Ling Xiao's force was, it was impossible for him to be a match for His Highness. As far as the Crown Prince was concerned, everything was under his control. Really? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His expression was extremely calm, without a trace of fear. He walked towards His Highness Great Sun with steady footsteps. Death is at hand, and you still won't give up? His Highness Great Sun sneered. The imprint clone of the Celestial Emperor is indeed powerful, but I wonder if it's stronger compared to the imprints of the 12 ancestor gods. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Buzz. His glabella shone brightly, and the deity clan mark appeared instantly. It contained the majestic fate of the deity clan, and flew towards the 12 stone pillars. Rumble. After sensing the aura of the deity clan mark, the 12 stone pillars trembled violently. 12 invincible figures emerged from the endless primal chaos light. The 12 figures were incomparably terrifying, ancient and powerful. They seemed to be able to tear everything apart, causing the primal chaos realm to shake violently. This is the deity clan mark. How could you have the deity clan mark? His Highness Great Sun trembled as he exclaimed in disbelief. He had never thought that Ling Xiao would have the deity clan mark. The deity clan mark contained the fate of the deity clan. It was a supreme treasure that the lord of the deity clan wielded. Legend had it that it had long been lost. The deity clan mark in His Highness Great Sun's hand was merely an imitation. He knew very well what the deity clan mark represented. When he saw the deity clan mark, his heart began to sink. Crack! The 12 figures with monstrous aura instantly pounced on the imprint doppelganger of the immortal emperor. The primal chaos exploded, and the endless void shattered like a mirror. The 12 figures and the imprint doppelganger of the immortal emperor broke out into an extremely fierce battle. Your Highness Great Sun, you are the one who deserves to die. You have wasted so much origin energy. If I don't kill you, how can I face the 12 ancestor gods? Ling Xiao shouted coldly. In an instant, he charged towards His Highness Great Sunday. Ling Xiao's heart was actually in great pain. The deity clan mark could indeed summon the imprint doppelganger of the 12 ancestor gods. However, those figures were condensed from origin energy and consumed the power of the 12 great Tao origins. Those were originally the fortunes left behind by the 12 ancestor gods. However, in order to deal with the imprint doppelganger of the immortal emperor, Ling Xiao had no choice but to use the deity clan mark. Therefore, he was incomparably furious. All of this was caused by His Highness Great Sunday Rumble. Ling Xiao and the profound Heaven Immortal Lord struck at the same time. The immortal culling sword and the profound heaven sword bloomed with unparalleled light. A peerless sword intent filled the sky and instantly enveloped His Highness Great Sunday. Damn it! Who the hell are you? The deity clan mark has long been lost, and is not in the immortal world. Who the hell are you? His Highness Great Sun roared furiously. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. As soon as the deity clan mark appeared, he began to panic. Without the imprint doppelganger of the immortal emperor, he was no match for Ling Xiao and the profound Heaven Immortal Lord. Now that he was targeted by Ling Xiao and the profound Heaven Immortal Lord, it became extremely difficult for His Highness Great Sun to escape. Rumble. The battle in the void was incomparably intense. Millions of brilliant immortal lights bloomed. The immortal emperor's figure traversed the heavens and earth. With his strength alone, he fought against the imprint doppelganger of the 12 ancestor gods. Even the chaos immortal bell was ringing. However, although the imprint doppelganger of the immortal emperor was strong, it was not as strong as the imprint doppelganger of the 12 ancestor gods. Soon it dimmed and was firmly suppressed. On the other side, His Highness Great Sun was also at a disadvantage. However, he was severely injured by Ling Xiao's immortal culling sword. Lei Ling, get out of my way! His Highness Great Sun roared. He was shocked and furious. He wanted to leave the battlefield and escape. Everything was out of his control. However, Ling Xiao and the profound Heaven Immortal Lord's attacks were extremely sharp and ruthless. His Highness Great Sun had no way to escape. He kept coughing up blood and retreating. It seemed like he was about to be defeated. Boom. In the end, the imprint doppelganger of the immortal emperor in the void was directly torn apart by the 12 ancestor gods. It turned into a dazzling rain of light. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply. The immortal culling sword pierced through the layers of the void, and pierced towards the glabella of His Highness Great Sunday. His Highness Great Sun's face changed drastically. He felt an extremely strong threat of death. Chapter 3002. Rumble. The immortal culling sword and the profound heavenly sword intertwined in the void, trapping His Highness in the middle and cutting off all his escape routes. Ling Xiao's attack had evolved the slaughter origin of the great immortal culling art. It seemed to have completely awakened the immortal culling sword and unleashed a peerless attack. Puff. Many of the defensive immortal weapons in front of His Highness exploded. The immortal culling sword pierced His Highness's arm and, without slowing down, stabbed him between the eyebrows. Bloody light filled the air and terrifying sword chi surged. The slaughter origin instantly poured into His Highness's primordial spirit and sea of consciousness, turning into a slaughter sword that nailed his primordial spirit. "Ah, Lei Ling, my grandfather won't let you off." His Highness roared madly, filled with resentment and resentment. His body emitted dazzling immortal light. Boom! The profound heavenly sword also came through the air and pierced His Highness's chest. The aura of extermination instantly destroyed his vitality. The Crown Prince's entire body exploded in the void. His body was crushed, his indestructible primordial spirit was shattered, and his soul was completely scattered. Rumble! The surrounding primal chaos realm shattered, and everyone reappeared in the Hall of the Gods. Swoosh! 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 Streaks of flowing light shot up into the sky, trying to break through the void and escape. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He reached out and caught two resplendent balls of light in his palm. They were the replica of the divine clan seal, and the divine bone in His Highness's body. As for the Chaos Immortal Bell, it had completely disappeared with the destruction of the chaotic realm. Could it be that he's still alive? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with divine light as he thought to himself. Although His Highness had been killed, Ling Xiao found that His Highness's divine bone and immortal root had not shattered. The divine bone had fallen into Ling Xiao's hand, but the immortal root had disappeared. Moreover, although the immortal culling sword had destroyed his primordial spirit, Ling Xiao still felt that something was missing. His Highness's status in the Eternal Immortal Dynasty is not ordinary. He even has the Chaos Immortal Bell and the Immortal Emperor's brand doppelganger. He won't die so easily. Ling Xiao thought to himself. After His Highness died, the shackles on the 12 stone pillars also disappeared. Yun Shi, Zhan Chun, and the others regained their freedom, and their faces all revealed the joy of surviving a calamity. The Cloudstream Saintess looked at Ling Xiao with eyes full of excitement and admiration. She wanted to run towards Ling Xiao, but at this moment, something strange happened. Rumble! The 12 stone pillars trembled violently as primal chaos mist rose. The silhouettes of the 12 ancestor gods hadn't completely dissipated after slaying the imprinted clone of the immortal emperor. The god clan mark on top of Ling Xiao's head trembled slightly. It was enshrouded in dazzling light and formed a strange connection with the chaotic divine bone on Ling Xiao's chest, and the figures of the 12 ancestral gods. The silhouettes of the 12 ancestor gods were ancient and mysterious. They were enshrouded in chaotic light. In an instant, they turned into streaks of flowing light and flew toward the chaos divine bone on Ling Xiao's chest. Boom! Ling Xiao's entire body was instantly enveloped by blazing divine light. Around him, chaos rose, and yin and yang separated. All kinds of mysterious phenomena appeared. It was as if many ancient gods and demons had appeared. They were like the stars in the sky. At this moment, they were all worshipping Ling Xiao as if they were worshipping their king. The phenomenon around Ling Xiao was too grand. The silhouettes of the 12 ancestor gods were all formed by the 12 great path origins. At this moment, they surged into Ling Xiao's body, causing his aura to become stronger and stronger. The 12 sky skills' secret skills were also rapidly transforming. Ling Xiao felt that he was wandering in the ocean of the 12 great path origins, and he was devouring the power of the great path origins hungrily. His aura also began to grow stronger and stronger, evolving towards a mysterious and unknown realm. The Son of God. So Lei Ling is the real Son of God. Looking at the grand phenomenon before him, Zhan Chen's eyes revealed a trace of excitement. He was completely convinced by Ling Xiao, the heaven-defying combat strength that Ling Xiao had displayed, and even the great-grandson had been killed by Ling Xiao. The 12 ancestor gods had sacrificed themselves to help Ling Xiao destroy the imprint clone of the celestial emperor. If such a person was not the Son of God, who else could he be? Brother Lei Ling is the Son of God? Yunqi Saintess also widened her eyes as she exclaimed in surprise and joy. Everyone could see that the 12 ancestor gods contained a vast amount of origin energy. The ultimate creation that the 12 ancestor gods had left behind had all merged into Ling Xiao's body. Although the genius disciples of the 6 major divine sects had complicated expressions, and were even filled with envy, they all understood. Being able to obtain the ultimate creation meant that Lei Ling was the Son of God. The prophecy of the great Emperor of Heaven reaching has come true. The Son of God has descended and will lead the 6 major divine sects. This is the chance for the divine tribe to revive. We have witnessed the birth of the Son of God, which means we have witnessed the history of the divine tribe. I, Zhanchen, pledge my loyalty to the Son of God until my death, Zhanchen said emotionally. Then he knelt down on one knee in front of Ling Xiao with a fanatical look in his eyes. I, Yunxi, pledge my loyalty to the Son of God until my death. Yunxi also knelt down on one knee without hesitation and said with a serious expression. The remaining people also hesitated for a moment before following Zhanchen and kneeling down. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism. I, Wuhan, pledge my loyalty to the Son of God until my death. I, Bing Xian, pledge my loyalty to the Son of God until my death. I, Lengfeng, pledge my loyalty to the Son of God until my death. With Zhanchen as the leader, the 11 geniuses of the 6 major divine sects were completely convinced by Ling Xiao and expressed their loyalty to him. According to the prophecy of the great Emperor of Heaven reaching, the Son of God would be the leader of the 6 major divine sects. He would be the hope of the divine tribe's rise and the future leader of the divine tribe. Although they did not expect Ling Xiao to become the Son of God, they would have died in the hands of the great Emperor of Heaven reaching if not for Lei Ling. Therefore, their loyalty now could be said to be wholeheartedly convinced. Everyone listen to my orders for now. Be on guard and wait for the Son of God to return from his seclusion. During this time, no one is allowed to disturb the Son of God. Kill all trespassers. Zhanchen ordered in a deep voice. Yes. Yes. Everyone bowed and listened to the order. Then, they rose into the air and surrounded Ling Xiao to protect him. At this moment, no one noticed the Xiantian Immortal Lord. After killing the great Emperor of Heaven reaching, the Xiantian Immortal Lord's eyes seemed to have regained some spirit. It was as if there was a sigh and sadness in his eyes. The Xiantian sword vibrated slightly and let out waves of joy, as if it was happy for its master. The sword intent on the Xiantian Immortal Lord's body became even purer. It was as if a peerless sword was being nurtured. Chapter 3003. The Eternal Immortal Dynasty. Above a misty mountain, numerous immortal palaces floated in the air, emitting dazzling immortal light. They were ancient and eternal. In the center of the countless immortal palaces, there was a lotus pond, enshrouded in chaotic mist and extremely dazzling. Boom! Suddenly, a lotus bloomed with 9-colored light and blazing flames rose. The lotus bloomed, revealing a 9-colored lotus throne. A figure sat cross-legged on the 9-colored lotus throne, his entire body glowing with immortal light. He seemed somewhat illusory. An immortal root ran through his body, quickly forming his meridians and then condensing into a physical body, gradually becoming real. It was a handsome young man, shrouded in dazzling immortal light. His body was flawless, and he was as handsome as jade, exuding a noble and mysterious aura. He suddenly opened his eyes, and 2 dazzling beams of light shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void and causing the clouds in the sky to tremble violently. Lei Ling, I will remember you. A cold and murderous voice sounded. That young man was His Highness' great-grandson. He was not dead, or rather, he was not completely dead. He had been reborn in a very strange way. Crack. At that moment, the void above His Highness' great-grandson's head seemed to explode, and a dazzling beam of light fell, enveloping him. Sensing the vast and mighty aura above him, His Highness' great-grandson's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with excitement. He knelt down respectfully. Greetings, Grandpa Huang. After this tribulation, you will be considered to have completed your cultivation. The immortal tribe is not weaker than anyone else. Cultivate well in seclusion. The Eternal Emperor Road is about to open. That will be your true battlefield. A dignified and old voice sounded. Yes. His Highness' great-grandson said seriously. Whoosh. Dazzling immortal light fell from the void, enveloping His Highness' great-grandson, and then he disappeared from the lotus pond. Qingyan. A majestic voice sounded. In the distance, a light flashed, and a young man with rosy lips and white teeth appeared. He was wearing a white Taoist robe, and his eyes were clear and bright. He had a faint smile on his face. He cupped his hands elegantly. Qingyan greets your majesty. Go to the ancestral mountain. That Lei Ling, if you can capture him alive, Bring him back. If you can't, let him go. The majestic voice spoke slowly. Captured alive? If we can't capture him alive, why not kill him? Qing Yin asked in surprise. No need. He might still be useful in the immortal demon gathering. If we can't capture him alive, just let him go. Understood. Qing Yin bowed and replied. Then he took a step forward. Ripples appeared in the void, and his figure slowly disappeared. Within the Hall of Gods. Of the 2 balls of light that Ling Xiao had obtained from His Highness great-grandson, one was a replica of the God Clan mark, and the other was His Highness great-grandson's God bone. The replica sacred clan mark was integrated into Ling Xiao's sacred clan mark. The sacred bone of His Highness was also integrated into Ling Xiao's chaotic sacred bone. The God race mark shone brightly as Ling Xiao obtained some memory fragments from the chaos God bone. He understood His Highness great-grandson's origins. As it turned out, the Crown Prince was the grandson of the immortal emperor, the son of the eternal celestial dynasty's Crown Prince. However, His Highness great-grandson's mother was a member of the God clan. 10,000 years ago, the God clan produced a stunning woman. By chance, she awakened the bloodline of the God clan, and was hailed as the hope of the God clan. Goddess Laniying's name shook the entire immortal world. The 6 great divine sects had invested a large amount of resources to nurture Goddess Laniying. Goddess Laniying did not disappoint. Her strength grew stronger and stronger. Not only did she defeat the geniuses of the 6 great divine sects, but she also overshadowed the geniuses of the 9 great immortal sects. Just when the 6 great divine sects thought that Goddess Laniying would become the hope of the God clan, Goddess Laniying fell in love with the eternal celestial dynasty's Crown Prince. She even betrayed the 6 great divine sects for the sake of the Crown Prince, causing the 6 great divine sects to suffer great losses. The reason why Ling Xiao had never heard of Goddess Laniying's name was because Goddess Laniying had become a taboo in the God clan. Very few people mentioned her. Ling Xiao did not expect His Highness great-grandson to have such a background. No wonder he could possess both God bone and immortal root. The replica of the God clan seal should have been left behind by Goddess Laniying. It allowed His Highness great-grandson to know many secrets of the Hall of Gods. That was how he was able to enter the Hall of Gods. His Highness great-grandson's luck is extraordinary. He is the son of Goddess Laniying. If not for me, he could have become the son of God. Ling Xiao thought to himself. However, Ling Xiao had killed His Highness great-grandson. All the fortunes in the Hall of Gods were left to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao also realized that the 12 stone pillars he had encountered previously were projections of the 12 stone pillars here. The origin energy contained within them was very weak. The 12 stone pillars contain the origin energy left behind by the 12 ancestral gods. Although much of it had been used up, the remaining origin energy was enough for Ling Xiao to make a deeper breakthrough in his 12 sky techniques. Rumble. Vast origin energy surged within Ling Xiao's body. Finally, it all gathered in the chaotic divine bone in his chest. The chaotic divine bone was like a chaotic world. When the 12 great Tao origins surged into it, it made it seem like a world was opening up in the chaos. Life was evolving, creating an incomparably mysterious scene. The 12 sky techniques circulated within Ling Xiao's body, emitting various mysterious fluctuations of laws. Chaos, fate, karma, reincarnation. The 12 great Daos were like the foundation of the world, the origin of chaos. They were the most ancient and mysterious great Tao powers. It made Ling Xiao feel like he had seen the ultimate secret of this world in the chaos. In the chaos, a world opened up and life was born. Fate evolved, controlling the life and death of all life and connecting to the origin of all life. Karma was ethereal, forming various fortuitous encounters and the love and hatred of all life. Reincarnation went back and forth, exploring the truth of all life. It was the mystery of life and death. The 12 great Tao origins merged into Ling Xiao's body and the 12 sky techniques. It made Ling Xiao feel like he had touched upon the truth of this world. As if it had caused a qualitative change, Ling Xiao's aura began to skyrocket as the 12 heaven cultivation secret techniques evolved towards the origin source secret techniques. He comprehended the great Tao principles, experienced the mystery of the world, and saw the truth of life and death. In the end, his cultivation began to slowly break through. Although Ling Xiao had not stayed in the immortal venerable realm for long, his accumulation was extremely strong. The supreme fortune in the Hall of Gods allowed Ling Xiao to obtain a vast foundation. He comprehended the 12 great Tao origins, and his cultivation began to break through to the immortal monarch realm. In other words, he was breaking through to the immortal monarch realm. Chapter 3004. The Imperial Lord Realm was an extremely strange realm. A heavenly venerable expert comprehended the great Tao law to perfection. After accumulation and enlightenment, the great Tao law would undergo a qualitative change and transform into the great Tao origin energy. The great Tao origin energy was the ultimate power. Just like the great Tao of flames, if the great Tao of flames evolved into the great Tao of flames, one could completely control the great Tao of flames. One could burn and create everything. Breaking through from the heavenly venerable realm to the Imperial Lord realm seemed to be only a step away, but the difference was like heaven and earth. An Imperial Lord realm expert was not only powerful in terms of strength, but also in terms of comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth and understanding of the truth of all things. An Imperial Lord realm expert could be said to be able to crush a heavenly venerable expert in all aspects. Especially an Imperial Lord realm expert who had condensed the body of origin energy, it could be said that his body was immortal, and his primordial spirit was indestructible. Even if he died, his body could exist for countless years. Most importantly, after breaking through to the Imperial Lord realm, although there was still a long way to go to the legendary Great Emperor realm, there was a glimmer of hope. In theory, every Imperial Lord realm expert had a chance to become an emperor. However, whether or not they could take that last step depended on their luck and opportunity. No matter where it was in the myriad worlds, an Imperial Emperor expert could be considered an overlord-level figure. Even in the immortal world, experts who could break through to the immortal realm were peerless geniuses that were 1 in 10,000. Now Ling Xiao was about to take that step. After comprehending a great Tao origin, he could break through to the Imperial Lord realm. However, Ling Xiao was not satisfied with this. He hoped to have a deeper accumulation and foundation. This way, his path would be wider after breaking through to the Imperial Lord realm, and he would have a greater chance of becoming an emperor. Previously, the Imperial Lord of Kunwu Mountain had asked him to enter the immortal world, to find an opportunity to break through to the Imperial Lord realm. Now Ling Xiao had received the gift of the 12 ancestor gods, and obtained the greatest fortune of the Hall of Gods. If he could comprehend any of the 12 great Tao origins left behind by the 12 ancestor gods to perfection, and break through to the Imperial Lord realm, he would be an extremely amazing Supreme Imperial Lord. These great Tao origins were all left behind by the 12 ancestor gods. Now they were all gathered in Ling Xiao's body. Most importantly, Ling Xiao had the 12 sky skills. These were also the 12 origin skills. Ling Xiao had already cultivated them to the perfection stage. Currently, the 12 great Taos had evolved and transformed into the origin force, which became the foundation of Ling Xiao's Tao attainment. Rumble. Within the Hall of Gods, Ling Xiao sat cross-legged in the air. His indestructible origin spirit illuminated the heavens, and his entire being radiated with an extremely resplendent light. The 12 sky arts seemed to have come alive in his body, forming 12 dragon-shaped meridians. They roared and intertwined, causing Ling Xiao's aura to grow stronger and stronger. Rumble. Inside Ling Xiao's body, it was as if the heavens and earth were being split apart. Endless lightning burst forth, blazing and dazzling to the extreme. As if some kind of shackle had been broken, Ling Xiao's aura instantly surpassed that of a heavenly venerate and ascended to a mysterious realm. Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through the limit of the heavenly venerate realm and broke through to the imperial emperor realm. Endless divine light surged and lightning bloomed. Above Ling Xiao's head, dark clouds swirled and sinister winds howled. Lightning intertwined like divine chains of order, enveloping him directly. Those lightning bolts were all formed by the great Tao laws and contained a power fluctuation that could destroy everything. In particular, those strange figures formed by the lightning emitted an aura that made one's heart tremble. This was the Imperial Emperor Tribulation. Ling Xiao had just broken through to the Imperial Emperor realm when the Imperial Emperor Tribulation descended in a mighty manner. This time, the Imperial Emperor Tribulation seemed to be more intense than ever. It was like an apocalyptic calamity that wanted to completely erase Ling Xiao. The lightning twisted and intertwined, causing the void to tremble violently. The aura was terrifying to the extreme. Rumble. In the next moment, the lightning tribulation that had been accumulating for a long time was like a mountain. Billions of destructive light intertwined and pressed down on Ling Xiao like a tsunami. What a terrifying immortal emperor tribulation. Zhan Chun Yanxi and the others trembled. Their eyes were filled with disbelief as they exclaimed. When they felt the destructive aura, they all retreated one after another. Their blood and chi were in turmoil, like a small boat in the middle of a vast ocean. Their eyes were filled with incomparable worry. Could Ling Xiao really withstand such a terrifying immortal emperor tribulation? Buzz. Just as the lightning that filled the sky fell, Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly opened. Two blazing light beams instantly pierced through the layers of void and went against the current. Crack! Ling Xiao's eyes were incomparably cold. Facing the lightning that filled the sky, he punched out in the air. That punch was extremely majestic. It was like a rising sun. Divine light was boundless and auspicious steam rose from it. The lightning that filled the sky trembled violently. Then it was blown apart by Ling Xiao's punch as if it was crushing dry weeds. The lightning was dazzling and spread in all directions like a whistling storm. Rumble. Ling Xiao opened his mouth. Instantly, all the lightning in the surroundings was swallowed by Ling Xiao like a whale swallowing the sea. Billions of lightning intertwined around Ling Xiao's body. Countless laws of the great Tao rose, containing a terrifying destructive power. However, it was unable to cause any damage to his physical body. All the lightning that filled the sky was swept away as if it had never appeared at all. He passed the immortal emperor tribulation just like that. Zhan Chen muttered to himself. He was completely stunned. One punch, one swallow. The immortal emperor tribulation was directly swallowed by Ling Xiao into his stomach and refined without a trace. Zhan Chen had never heard of such a powerful and domineering way of passing the tribulation. This is our God's child. He's too domineering. Someone said slowly. His eyes were filled with incomparable fanaticism and excitement. Everyone thought that the immortal emperor tribulation was a great tribulation with a slim chance of survival. However, it was completely ineffective for Ling Xiao. Such an easy way of passing the tribulation made everyone feel like they were dreaming. However, the scene in front of them told them that Ling Xiao had really passed the immortal emperor tribulation and had become a genuine immortal emperor expert. Is this the immortal emperor realm? Ling Xiao muttered to himself softly. His eyes were incomparably sharp and dazzling. He clenched his fist. Immediately, billions of lightning bolts burst out, crossing the heaven and earth and penetrating everything. It was incomparably vast. Ling Xiao felt that his entire body was filled with endless power. He could tear the heaven and earth apart and shatter the universe with a wave of his hand. This world was becoming more and more real and clear. P.S. I have something to do at the last minute. I only have one update today. Everyone rest early. Chapter 3005. Ling Xiao had broken through to the Imperial Emperor realm. His primordial spirit had completely transformed into an indestructible primordial spirit. 12 Tao origins intertwined in his sea of consciousness, forming a Tao fruit of the primordial spirit that emitted 12 colors of light. The Tao fruit of the primordial spirit was like an eternal sun that hovered in the endless void, emitting eternal and eternal light. Chaos, fate, cause and effect, reincarnation. 12 Tao origins, each of which was earth-shattering and peerless. They were all origin powers that could be called forbidden powers. These 12 Tao origins were the foundation of all Taos in heaven and earth. They could evolve into all realms and billions of living beings. The 12 ancestor gods were able to sweep across the heavens and bring the god realm to an extremely glorious state because of the power of these 12 Tao origins. Now Ling Xiao had received a gift from the 12 ancestor gods and had become the true son of God, the son of the 12 ancestor gods. Rumble. Just as Ling Xiao completed his tribulation and completely advanced to the Imperial Emperor realm, the surrounding void began to vibrate violently. A strange and ancient fluctuation spread out, and the void seemed to distort as it spread in all directions. Bright light bloomed, and auspicious vapors rose. The mysterious scene of a 12-colored lotus platform appeared in the void. Ling Xiao stood on the 12-colored lotus platform, and his body was surrounded by divine light. He had a faint smile on his face, and his entire body emitted a mysterious and invincible aura. This phenomenon was too grand. Zhan Chen, the Yunqi saintess, and the others who were protecting Ling Xiao were all shocked. Their eyes were filled with shock and fanatical admiration. This phenomenon is clearly the aura of the birth of the legendary Son of God. Translator, Naibo Studio Editor. Naibo Studio Editor. Naibo Studio. Zhan Chen said excitedly. With the arrival of the Son of God, we will definitely win this immortal demon conference. With the opening of the Hall of Gods and the arrival of the Son of God, is our God tribe really going to be revived? I seem to have seen the future of the God tribe. Everyone's body was filled with excitement. They knelt on one knee in front of Ling Xiao, and their eyes were filled with fanatical admiration as if they were worshipping their king. Wang. Ling Xiao, who was in the air, had 12 colored lights shining in his eyes. He was wise and mysterious. He gently raised his hand, and 11 rays of light shot out from his palm. They descended from the sky and merged into the bodies of Zhan Chen and the others. Rumble. Their bodies shook violently, as if flames were rising in an instant, causing the blood in their bodies to start boiling. Blazing flames rose. These were the flames of the Great Path. They fused into their bodies and entered their bloodlines. It's so hot! Someone couldn't help but shout. The flames rose to the extreme, and an incomparably mysterious scene appeared. Black shackles vaguely appeared in their bloodlines, completely sealing their bloodlines. However, under the burning of the fire of the Great Path, the black shackles in their bodies began to tremble slightly. Dazzling celestial light bloomed on them, and then cracks began to appear. These are the shackles that bind our bloodline. Zhan Chen and the others were both surprised and overjoyed. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The people of the 6 great divine sects, as well as those who called themselves the God Clan, could only be called the descendants of the God Clan. They weren't the true God Clan, because there were bloodline shackles in their bodies that sealed the power of their bloodlines. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 amazing people who broke the bloodline shackles in their bodies and grew into top experts who could shake the entire immortal world. Those were the true God Clan. For example, Goddess Lanying and the Grandmaster Emperor. Although Zhan Chen, Yunqi, and the others were genius disciples of the 6 great divine sects, they hadn't been able to break the bloodline shackles in their bodies. Now that Ling Xiao had ascended to the immortal emperor realm, with the help of the Great Path origin left behind by the 12 ancestral gods, he began to help them break the bloodline shackles in their bodies, releasing their powerful potential and growing into the true God Clan. Crack. An incomparably crisp sound rang out. The shackles in Zhan Chen and the others' bloodline were all burned by the fire of the Great Path. In the end, they all collapsed with a loud bang. Zhan Chen and the others felt comfortable all over. Their eyes were filled with incomparable intoxication, and their souls felt incomparably warm. After breaking the bloodline shackles, they had finally become the true God Clan. Every one of them had a smile on their faces. The bloodline in their bodies surged endlessly like a great river, blooming with dazzling light. Rumble. Yunqi's cultivation was originally at the peak of the immortal venerable realm. Now that she had broken the bloodline shackles, her powerful accumulation and foundation allowed her cultivation to instantly break through to the immortal monarch realm. The powerful immortal monarch tribulation had descended. As for Zhan Chen and the others, most of them were originally at the 1st and 2nd heavens of the immortal monarch realm. At this moment, after receiving the support of the Great Path origin, their strength also began to soar by leaps and bounds. Dazzling divine light spread out, enveloping all of them. In the Hall of Gods, thousands of rays of divine light and thousands of auspicious colors shone. The 12-colored lotus platform was like a divine sun shining on the earth, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. The mysterious phenomenon spread out, causing the wild beasts outside the barrier to become even more frenzied. Each of them was incomparably restless, wanting to rush into the barrier. Immortal world. In the void, blazing light condensed, clouds rose, and an incomparably mysterious figure vaguely appeared. Although the figure's face was very blurry, he looked very young. His feet stepped on the heaven and earth, and above his head was a galaxy. 3,000 worlds surrounded him, exuding an invincible aura. Under his feet, there was a lotus platform like the sun, emitting 12 colors of light, eternal and immortal. This phenomenon was incomparably grand, and almost instantly shocked everyone in the immortal world. What kind of phenomenon is this? Could it be that someone has proven their Tao and become an emperor? Someone's body trembled, and he said with incomparable shock, "It shouldn't be. The phenomenon of proving one's Tao and becoming an emperor is even grander than this. If someone becomes an emperor, there will be a phenomenon in all the worlds, and the great Tao will celebrate. It looks like the phenomenon of breaking through to the immortal monarch realm." The phenomenon of breaking through to the immortal monarch realm? How is that possible? It's already very good for ordinary people to be able to form a phenomenon of 10,000 miles when they break through to the immortal monarch realm. Even the geniuses among them can only form a phenomenon of 1,000,000 miles. I'm afraid the entire immortal world can see such a phenomenon. Could it be that a supreme treasure has appeared? It doesn't look like it. I think it's more like some kind of heaven-defying monster has taken an important step forward. This kind of phenomenon is amazing. Another peerless monster has appeared in the immortal world. It looks like our immortal world is going to prosper. I wonder who that young man is. Everyone in the immortal world was discussing animatedly, guessing the identity of the figure in the void. Chapter 3006. Ancestral Mountain. Madame Fuyao and the supreme elders of the various divine sects also saw the strange phenomenon in the sky. Could this strange phenomenon be because of the Hall of Gods? Someone asked doubtfully. The Son of God has descended. Cheng Kaitai's body shook as if he had thought of something. His eyes were filled with excitement as he took a deep breath. What? The Son of God? A glint flashed across everyone's eyes. Could it be that one of the genius disciples of the 6 divine sects has become the Son of God? That's very likely. Looks like the God clan is on the rise. The descent of the Son of God will lead the 6 divine sects and millions of people of the God clan. I think Zhan Chen from the God of War realm may become the Son of God. Saint Wu Hen from your sect is not bad either. Yunqi Saintis is also a genius. Many supreme elders were incomparably excited. They were originally very nervous, not knowing what the genius disciples of the 6 divine sects would encounter after entering the Hall of Gods. However, the strange phenomenon in the sky caused them to become extremely excited. Madame Fuyao looked at the figure in the sky. Her eyes sparkled as a figure appeared in her mind. She then whispered to herself in an almost undetectable voice, "Is it him?" In the endless void, a young man with rosy lips and white teeth walked on the chaos. His clothes were whiter than snow, and his temperament was otherworldly. He had a divine aura. He looked calm and composed, and his eyes were incomparably deep, like the stars in the sky. At this moment, the strange phenomenon in the immortal realm was transmitted to the chaotic void, and he noticed it. This is Lei Ling? The young man's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He was Qing Yun, the peerless immortal lord under the immortal emperor. He had come here for Lei Ling. However, when he saw the strange phenomenon in the void, he was still a little surprised. It looks like Lei Ling has received the fortune of the ancestor god, and become the Son of God. No wonder His Majesty sent me here. Qing Yun muttered to himself. Lei Ling is indeed extraordinary. Although the Son of God isn't much, he's still a problem. It's better to leave him in front of your Majesty. It's more reassuring. Qing Yun's eyes flashed. Stepping on the chaos, he sped up and headed for Sacred Ancestor Mountain. In the Hall of Gods, Ling Xiao had no idea that the heaven and earth phenomenon formed by his breakthrough to the Imperial Emperor realm had actually appeared in the sky above the immortal world, causing a huge uproar. Ling Xiao's attention was completely focused on the god race mark. After Ling Xiao obtained the fortune of the 12 ancestral gods, he finally gained complete control of the god clan mark. As it turned out, The divine clan seal was one of the two supreme treasures of the divine clan. The other was the cauldron of fortune. The God Clan seal was the highest authority of the God Clan. Whoever wielded the God Clan seal was the master of the God Clan. The God Clan mark contained the fortune of the God Clan. It could stimulate the bloodline of the God Clan and unleash the greatest potential. The reason why Zhang Chun, Yun Shi, and the others were able to break through their bloodline shackles was not only because of the great Tao origins of the 12 ancestral gods, but also because of the God Clan mark. This discovery made Ling Xiao extremely excited. If the descendants of the God Clan from the 6 major divine sects could all break through their bloodline shackles, they would definitely be able to unleash great potential. After all, the God Clan was the most ancient race. They had once dominated the ancient times. Even the Immortal Clan was only a servant of the God Clan. As Ling Xiao interacted with them, he realized that the Immortal Clan's strength was so strong that it made people despair. Perhaps only the God Clan could contend against the Immortal Clan. However, the power of the God Clan mark had yet to be fully activated. If he wanted to activate the power of the God Clan mark, he still needed to go to another place, the Immortal Demon Cave. Now only Zhang Chun and the others' bloodline shackles have been broken. If I want to break the bloodline shackles of all the descendants of the God Clan, I have to completely awaken the God Clan mark. Moreover, I need the complete cauldron of fortune. Ling Xiao thought to himself. When the God Clan mark and the cauldron of fortune appeared at the same time, they could activate the bloodline shackles of all the descendants of the God Clan. The heavenly sword diagram left behind by the Grandmaster Emperor is in the Immortal Demon Cave. The secret of the God Clan mark is also in the Immortal Demon Cave. What kind of place is this Immortal Demon Cave? Ling Xiao was puzzled. He felt that the Immortal Demon Cave was becoming more and more mysterious. The Immortal Demon Cave was not as simple as it seemed. Rumble. Yin Shi's Immortal Lord Tribulation was extremely strong. Although it was not as strong as Ling Xiao's Immortal Lord Tribulation, it was still very terrifying. In the end, she passed the Immortal Lord Tribulation without any mishap, and became a First Heaven Immortal Lord Realm expert. As for Zhang Chen's cultivation, he had reached the Third Heaven Immortal Lord Realm. The other 9 people's cultivation were all at the peak of the Second Heaven Immortal Lord Realm. Their cultivations had all improved by different degrees, and their admiration for Ling Xiao had also become more and more fervent. They had completely become Ling Xiao's loyal followers. This Hall of Gods, perhaps we can call it the Ancestral God Realm. This is also the final foundation of the God Clan. It can accommodate billions of God Clan members. Remember this. I give you the authority to enter the Ancestral God Realm. If the God Clan is in trouble in the future, bring them into the Ancestral God Realm. Do you understand? Ling Xiao's eyes moved and fell on Zhang Chun and the others. He waved his hand, and 11 runes flew out from the God Clan seal. All of them landed on their palms, and then they disappeared. Authority to enter the Ancestral God Realm? Thank you, God's child. Zhang Chun and the others' eyes lit up. Then they bowed respectfully. Although they had not fully explored the Ancestral God Realm, they knew that it was vast and boundless. It was also incomparably ancient, and contained many treasures. Even if the Ancestral God Realm was smaller than the Immortal Realm, it was not that much smaller. Most importantly, the Ancestral God Realm was hidden in the chaos. No one could discover its existence at all. To the God Clan, this was the perfect place to reproduce. And all of this was brought to them by God's child. God's child, you killed His Highness great-grandson. I'm afraid the Eternal Immortal Dynasty will not let this matter rest. Why don't you cultivate in the Ancestral God Realm? Then we will go out and move the God Clan members into the Ancestral God Realm. We will wait for God's child to become stronger, and temporarily avoid the immortal race's wrath. What do you think? Zhang Chun cupped his hands at Ling Xiao. The Eternal Immortal Dynasty? Even if I don't kill His Highness great-grandson, will they let me go? Also, since when did the God Clan need to avoid the immortal race? The immortal race is just a servant of the God Clan. I want to go out, and I will kill all the immortal race geniuses in the Immortal Demon Gathering. I will let the immortal race know that the Master is still the Master. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, his voice loud and clear. Zhang Chun and the others trembled as their blood boiled with excitement. Chapter 3007. Ling Xiao left the ancestral god palace. As for Zhang Chun and the rest, they had all become Ling Xiao's loyal followers. This was especially so for the Cloud Stream Saintess. Her gaze towards Ling Xiao was filled with admiration and joy. Her Lei Lang had become the son of God, the hope of the entire God clan. The birth of the son of God filled them with confidence for the future of the God clan. Their blood boiled, and they wanted nothing more than to die for the son of God. Ling Xiao had never imagined that he would become the gods chosen by the Heavenspan Emperor Lord after entering the Hall of Gods. Speaking of which, Ling Xiao was able to become the son of God because of the Grandmaster Emperor. The Chaos God Bone left behind by the Grandmaster Emperor caused Ling Xiao's immortal root to collapse and fuse with the God Bone, completely becoming a God clan member. This was especially true for the 12 Great Tao origins. This was the fortune left behind by the 12 ancestral gods. It saved Ling Xiao 10,000 years of cultivation and allowed him to break through to the Imperial Emperor realm. Other than that, there was also the whereabouts of the Heavenly Sword diagram, the secret of the God clan mark, and the Cauldron of Fortune. The Hall of God was the greatest fortune that Ling Xiao had received since coming to the immortal realm. Buzz. Ling Xiao, Zhang Chun, Yin Shi, and the others flashed and appeared in the sky above Ancestral Mountain. They're out. Who became the Son of God? The arrival of the Son of God is a great blessing for the God clan. It seems that we were right to open the Hall of God this time. Seeing that someone had appeared, Chung Kaitai and the other grand elders of the 6 major sects began to get excited. Their eyes shone brightly as they looked at Ling Xiao and the others. It really is him. Madame Fu Yao's beautiful eyes flashed as her gaze fell on Ling Xiao. She keenly sensed that the immortal root in Ling Xiao's body had disappeared, and an extremely mysterious and powerful god bone had appeared in his chest. As for Zhang Chun, Yin Shi and the others, they stood behind Ling Xiao like stars surrounding the moon. Their eyes were filled with fanatical worship. It went without saying. Ling Xiao was the son of God. He's the son of God. Chung Kaitai and the other 4 supreme elders also noticed this, and their eyes revealed a trace of incomparable surprise. They had guessed that many people would become the son of God, such as Zhang Chun and Yin Shi, but they had never thought that Lei Ling would become the son of God. After all, Lei Ling was just an immortal. They had already had some complaints about Fu Yao allowing Lei Ling to enter the Hall of Gods. However, the scene in front of them caused them to fall completely silent. Their expressions were a little complicated. For a moment, they did not know how to face Lei Ling. The birth of the Son of God is truly a joyous occasion. Looks like I'm not late. At this moment, a faint and ethereal voice rang out in the void. Crack. The void trembled slightly, and chaotic mist filled the air. Instantly, a young Taoist with rosy lips and white teeth appeared in front of everyone. His temperament was otherworldly, and his eyes were bright and deep. A faint smile hung on the corner of his lips. His gaze swept across the crowd, containing the power to see through people's hearts. In the end, his gaze landed on Ling Xiao, the imperial advisor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Madame Fu Yao's entire body shook, and her eyes revealed a trace of incomparable fear and shock. This young Taoist's background was incomparably shocking. The imperial advisor of the Eternal Immortal Dynasty, Taoist Qingyun. No one knew how long Taoist Qingyun had lived, but it was said that he was a figure of the same generation as the immortal emperor. His talent was astounding, and his strength was unfathomable. Moreover, he always looked like a young man. Madame Fu Yao had never imagined that the imperial advisor of the Royal Azure Dynasty would come here. Madame Fu Yao, long time no see. Today, I heard that the Son of God of the Divine Tribe has descended. I've specially come here to invite the Son of God to the Eternal Immortal Dynasty as a guest. Please grant my wish. Qingyun said to Madame Fu Yao with a smile. Invite the Son of God to the Eternal Immortal Dynasty? No need. The Son of God has important matters to attend to. If he has time in the future, he will naturally visit the immortal emperor. Madame Fu Yao's eyes flashed, and she flatly rejected the invitation. She was extremely wary. The imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty had come personally to invite the Son of God to the eternal immortal dynasty. Could this be an order from the mysterious immortal emperor? Imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty, the six divine sects and the eternal immortal dynasty have always minded our own business. Is the eternal immortal dynasty trying to break this balance? Chen Kaitai frowned and said. The people of the six divine sects were extremely wary. They had already understood the meaning behind the imperial advisor's words. The imperial advisor had come here to capture the Son of God and bring him back to the eternal immortal dynasty. How could this be? The Son of God was the hope of the divine tribe. No matter what, they could not hand him over to the royal Azure dynasty. Visit? That sounds nice. Imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty, if you want to capture the Son of God, just say so. No matter what, the Son of God will not go to the eternal immortal dynasty. Zhang Feng snorted coldly. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. The imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty was probably here for the crown prince? After all, Ling Xiao had killed the crown prince in the Hall of Gods. The crown prince's status in the eternal immortal dynasty was extraordinary. Who knew if he had incurred the wrath of the immortal emperor? In Ling Zhao's opinion, the imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty was here to denounce him. Furthermore, Ling Xiao felt a trace of energy from the imperial advisor of the Kunwu mountain from the imperial advisor. A peerless imperial advisor? At the thought of this, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed brightly. A strong fighting spirit surged around him. I'm afraid everyone has misunderstood me. I am sincerely inviting the Son of God to the eternal immortal dynasty. I'm afraid the Son of God will have to come with me today. The imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty smiled and walked towards the crowd. Rumble. A vast and unparalleled aura spread out. It made the imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty exuded an invincible aura that pressed down on the crowd. Madame Fuyao and the supreme elders of the five divine sects could not help but change their expressions when they saw this aura. The imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty was too domineering. His words sounded polite, but in reality, he was telling Madame Fuyao and the others that if they did not allow the Son of God to come with him to the eternal immortal dynasty, he would start a massacre. No one can take the Son of God away. Imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty, are you trying to make an enemy of the six divine sects? Protect the Son of God. Everyone shouted coldly. Their eyes were filled with anger and coldness as they stared at the imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty. It was as if they were facing a formidable enemy. With Madame Fuyao and Cheng Kaitai in the lead, the supreme elders of the six divine sects unleashed a powerful aura. It was as if they were going to break through the shackles of heaven and earth. Zhan Chen, Yin Shi, and the others were on high alert. They stood in front of Ling Xiao and stared at the imperial advisor of the royal Azure dynasty, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Chapter 3008. I really don't want to fight with all of you. Why do you have to force me? Qin Yin said with a sigh. His eyes were extremely calm. Boom. He took a step forward and it was as if thunder had exploded. The aura around him rose and became extremely terrifying in an instant. Yin and Yang Qi gathered around him, causing the surrounding sky to tremble. It shot up into the sky and formed a yin-yang tai chi diagram in the sky. The vast aura came crashing down on Madame Fuyao and the others. The yin-yang tai chi diagram also came crashing down from the sky, like an ancient sacred mountain. Madame Fuyao and the others trembled as their blood boiled. Their eyes were extremely solemn as they took a few steps back. Boom, boom, boom. The smile on Qin Yun's face did not change as he took a few steps forward. Every step he took was like stepping on a node of heaven and earth. The yin-yang tai chi diagram became even more dazzling and condensed, emitting an extremely powerful pressure. Madame Fuyao and the others were unable to resist Qin Yun's aura, and their expressions became even more solemn. Is this the power of a peerless immortal master? Madame Fuyao's heart trembled as her eyes were filled with disbelief. She seemed to see the shadow of sect leader Gu Tongtian in Qin Yun. However, Qin Yun's aura was even stronger and more terrifying, making it difficult for them to resist. Lei Ling run. Madame Fuyao gritted her teeth and shouted. Then she charged towards Qin Yin. Endless sword light gathered around her, and finally turned into a shocking sword that slashed down on Qin Yin. She still chose to attack despite the strong pressure. Kill! Chung Kaitai and the rest of the Supreme Elders uttered a roar too. Their eyes were filled with determination as they made their moves right after Qin Nan. Rumble! 6 dazzling divine lights swept across the void and charged towards Qin Yin at the same time. Among the 6 of them, even the weakest had reached the 5th heaven of the monarch realm. The strongest, Madame Fuyao, was already a 7th heaven of the monarch realm. Even so, they still had no chance of winning against the imperial advisor of Qin Yin. They only hoped to delay Qin Yin and create a chance for Ling Xiao to escape. Boom! Qin Yin's expression was incomparably indifferent. Facing Madame Fuyao and the others, he merely suppressed them with a simple palm. The unparalleled palm print seemed to be able to destroy everything. The Yin-Yang Taiji diagram also came crashing down from the sky. In an instant, the sky and earth were turned upside down, and Yin and Yang rotated. Madame Fuyao and the others seemed to have appeared in a world of Yin and Yang, surrounded by Yin and Yang Qi that had transformed into a powerful emperor aura origin. Rumble! The 6 of them trembled all over, as if they had suffered an unimaginable heavy injury in an instant, and were sent flying through the air. Puff! They coughed up blood, and their faces were extremely pale. Their eyes were filled with shock. Among the 6 major divine sects, they were also the powerhouses who were responsible for suppressing the fate of their divine sections. But now, they couldn't even withstand a single blow from the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. This made them feel a strong sense of defeat. The combat prowess of the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty was too terrifying. Boom! Qin Yin didn't even look at them as he walked towards Ling Xiao. Zhan Qin, Yin Shi, and the others were originally standing in front of Ling Xiao, but their strength was far inferior to Madame Fuyao and the others. Naturally, they couldn't withstand the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. As if they had been struck by lightning, they trembled all over and were sent flying. As if all obstacles had been cleared, the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty walked towards Ling Xiao. Rumble! A vast force came crashing down from the sky, as if trying to force Ling Xiao to kneel down. Ling Xiao's expression was indifferent as he stared at the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty, as if he was not affected by the force at all. The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty might be difficult for others to resist, but it was nothing to Ling Xiao. As expected of the Son of God, you are indeed extraordinary. His Majesty would like to invite the Son of God to the Eternal Celestial Dynasty. Please come with me. The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty smiled gently. Go to the Eternal Celestial Dynasty? I'm sorry, but I have no interest in meeting the Celestial Emperor now. After the Deity Demon Conference, if there is a chance, maybe I can meet the Celestial Emperor. Ling Xiao said indifferently, without a trace of fear. Even though the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty's strength was unfathomable, Ling Xiao felt threatened. When to meet the Celestial Emperor is not up to you, nor is it up to me. Since the Celestial Emperor wants to meet you, you must go to the Eternal Celestial Dynasty. The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty smiled. What if I don't want to? I said it's not up to you. Son of God, if you don't want to, then I can only force you to go to the Eternal Celestial Dynasty. The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty said. His voice was incomparably calm, and the corner of his mouth had been curled up in a faint smile, showing his immense confidence. It was the kind of confidence that everything was under his control. He believed that Ling Xiao would not be able to escape from his control. You want to fight? If that's the case, then let me have a taste of the imperial tutor's skills. Ling Xiao said faintly. His eyes flashed and an extremely strong fighting spirit surged in them. He was not far away from the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Ling Xiao could clearly feel the strong pressure from the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. However, that pressure made Ling Xiao extremely excited, and the blood in his body seemed to be boiling. He desperately wanted to have a great battle. After breaking through to the Imperial Emperor realm, Ling Xiao's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Even though he was facing the peerless immortal emperor in front of him, Ling Xiao did not show the slightest fear. Clang! The sound of a sword rang through the void, and the immortal slaughtering sword appeared in Ling Xiao's palm. It emitted a blazing light and a murderous aura, causing the surrounding void to tremble slightly, as if it could feel the murderous intent in Ling Xiao's body. The immortal slaughtering sword became extremely excited. The immortal slaughtering sword? It's a pity that your cultivation is too weak, and it's not something a supreme emperor weapon can make up for. Son of God, since you killed His Highness, use this sword to atone for your sins. The imperial tutor of the royal Azure dynasty said with a faint smile. Boom. He made his move. It was a light palm, like a cloud, slow and ethereal. It flew towards Ling Xiao, as if it did not contain any energy fluctuations. However, when this palm exploded, Ling Xiao felt as if there was a vast world rising up, and in an instant it enveloped his entire body. Behind the light palm, there were waves as vast as the sea. It was an immortal palm, and it was an unparalleled destructive force. Ling Xiao did not hesitate at all. The immortal slaughtering sword in his hand emitted a peerless sword light, and in an instant, it flew across the sky, aiming for the imperial tutor's forehead. Chapter 3009. Using the 12 Great Tao Origins to break through to the Imperial Emperor realm, Ling Xiao's strength skyrocketed. At this moment, he wielded the immortal slaughtering sword and used the Great Slaughtering Immortal technique. He felt as if he had merged with the legendary Great Slaughtering Immortal Lord, and unleashed a shocking sword attack. Boom! Sword chi swept across the void as the immortal slaughtering sword was completely awakened. The sword hummed and the Emperor's aura rose. It was like a vast sword territory that enveloped the Imperial Advisor. No one could describe the shock of that sword attack. It was like a white light that rose up and split the heavens and earth in an instant. It was magnificent and boundless. The palm print and the sword light collided. In an instant, large swaths of the void were annihilated. Endless divine light swept out in all directions like a tidal wave. Ling Xiao and the Imperial Advisor were both sent flying at the same time, as expected of a peerless immortal lord. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly as an extremely powerful battle intent surged out. Even though his blood was boiling and his arms were numb, he was about to lose consciousness. The Great Slaughtering Immortal technique, combined with the immortal slaughtering sword, unleashed a peerless sword attack that forced the Imperial Advisor to retreat. The Royal Azure Dynasty Grand Tutor's face also revealed a trace of surprise. After all, the gap between him and Ling Xiao was too big. However, he felt a sense of threat from Ling Xiao, especially the immortal slaughtering sword. It seemed to have completely awakened. The sharp sword chi seemed to be able to destroy everything. Lei Ling, you are indeed the son of God. It seems that you have gained a lot in the Hall of Gods. Since that is the case, you have to follow me to the Eternal Immortal Dynasty. The Imperial Tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty said faintly as his gaze turned sharp. He was getting serious. Although he knew that Ling Xiao was the son of God, the gap between them was too big. Hence, he did not pay much attention to it. However, after this attack he realized that Ling Xiao was extraordinary. The Eternal Immortal Dynasty is as domineering as ever. If you want me to go to the Eternal Immortal Dynasty, you have to defeat me first. Ling Xiao sneered as his battle intent rose. The blood in his body seemed to be boiling. The chaotic divine bone in front of his chest shone with chaotic light, causing him to exude an immortal and indestructible aura. The immortal slaughtering sword spewed out sharp light as it pointed at the Imperial Advisor of the Imperial Azure Dynasty. An incomparably dangerous aura rose around Ling Xiao and the Imperial Tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. A huge battle was about to break out. Even the supreme elders of the six divine sects were surprised and delighted when they felt the powerful aura coming from Ling Xiao's body. This son of God had brought them a great surprise. He had just broken through to the Imperial Emperor realm, and was already able to face the Imperial Advisor of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Once he fully matured, how strong would he be? Everyone, even if we die, we must protect the safety of God's child. Chen Kaitai gritted his teeth and said. His eyes revealed a trace of determination. Terrifying auras rose from their bodies, and mysterious flames spread out. They were actually planning to burn their origin and fight to the death in order to save the Son of God. In their eyes, the life of the Son of God was thousands of times more valuable than theirs. The more terrifying the potential Ling Xiao displayed, the more resolute they became. Elders, don't be anxious. Perhaps we don't have to risk our lives. Madame Fuyao's eyes flashed as she spoke with a complicated expression. Wang, Wang, Wang. At this moment, the surrounding void began to tremble. Within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, all the mountains, rocks, and plants were trembling. It was as if there was an incomparably sharp sword essence rising. It was domineering, mysterious, and terrifying to the extreme. Even Ling Xiao and the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty, who were facing each other, could not help but have a slight change in expression. Royal Azure Dynasty, with your status, aren't you bullying the Son of God of the Divine Clan? Why don't you let me play with you? A faint but deep voice rang out in the void. Devour. The sword chi that filled the sky gathered together, and the blazing divine light rose and surged. Finally, it turned into a middle-aged man in green robes. He was tall, and his face looked as if it was carved by a knife. The sharp lines on his face made him look sharp, domineering, and mysterious. His eyes were as calm as water, but there was a kind of power that could see through everything. The occasional flash of light was as sharp as the sword chi. He stood there as if he was one with the heavens and earth. However, when the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty saw him, his expression changed instantly. The prime of Tongtian, Gu Tongtian? The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty's expression was slightly solemn. All his attention was instantly focused on the middle-aged man in green robes. It was as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Gu Tongtian? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. Was this the hierarch of ancient god cult, the elusive hierarch of ancient Tongtian who had always been in closed-door training? For some reason, Ling Xiao suddenly felt a little guilty. It's the prime of Tongtian? Madam, the prime of Tongtian has come out of seclusion? Aha. It seems like we are safe. The prime of Tongtian must have been alerted by the strange phenomenon of the Son of God's birth. I wonder what realm the prime of Tongtian is in now. Legend has it that before he went into seclusion, he was already a peerless immortal lord. Chung Kaitai and the rest were ecstatic, as if they had been rescued from a hopeless situation. They were extremely excited. Imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty, why don't you give me face and let the Son of God of the Divine Clan go? Gu Tongtian looked at the imperial tutor calmly and said, Gu Tongtian, it's not like you to be so polite. However, do you think it's possible for me to let him go with just a few words? The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty sneered. Looking at Gu Tongtian in front of him, his heart was filled with dread. Speaking of which, the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty had many dealings with Gu Tongtian. They had even fought a few times. The Gu Tongtian he had seen before was domineering and fierce, like an unsheathed divine sword or an erupting volcano. He was extremely violent. However, the Gu Tongtian now was like a divine sword sheathed in its scabbard. He had restrained his sharpness and had become refined, without that wild temperament. However, the more he behaved like this, the more the imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty feared Gu Tongtian. Oh, then what do you want, imperial tutor? Gu Tongtian said calmly. Let's have a fight. In the battle 10,000 years ago, you won by half a move. Today, I want to test the heavy sword under my feet again. If you win, you can take the Son of God away. If you lose, the Son of God will have to come with me. The imperial tutor of the Royal Azure Dynasty said slowly. His eyes were sharp, and he did not hide his strong fighting spirit. After Gu Tongtian appeared, he knew that he would not be able to bring Ling Xiao back to the eternal immortal dynasty. Gu Tongtian's strength was something that even the immortal emperor could not stop praising. 10,000 years ago, before Gu Tongtian went into seclusion, his cultivation had already reached the level of a peerless immortal lord. He had even killed a 9th-level immortal lord. The name of the heavy sword resounded throughout the immortal realm. Chapter 30:10. The imperial tutor had fought with Gu Tongtian a few times before. Although they were evenly matched, The imperial tutor knew that he was no match for Gu Tongtian. Now that he met Gu Tongtian again, he realized that he could not see through him. Do you want to fight me? Sure. But now, I don't know how to use a sword anymore. Since Lord Imperial Tutor is interested, I'll play with you for a bit. Gu Tongtian smiled faintly. The Imperial Tutor's eyes narrowed. You don't know how to use a sword anymore? He understood what Gu Tongtian meant. 10,000 years ago, Gu Tongtian's swordsmanship was godly and domineering. But now Gu Tongtian had reached a realm where he could not rely on anything. This Gu Tongtian was even more terrifying. But the Imperial Tutor's fighting spirit was getting stronger and stronger. He was not afraid at all. At their level of cultivation, there was only one crucial step left. But this step was like the difference between heaven and earth. Countless people could not see the road ahead. With the Imperial Tutor's arrogance, there was almost no one in the world who could catch his eye. But Gu Tongtian was different. If he fought with Gu Tongtian, he might be able to understand the road ahead. It was the same for Gu Tongtian. Let's go. Let's fight. The Imperial Tutor took a deep look at Gu Tongtian and took a step forward. The void trembled, and he disappeared from the sky above Sacred Ancestor Mountain. Gu Tongtian smiled faintly. His gaze swept across the crowd and paused on Ling Xiao for a moment. He nodded at Ling Xiao and then took a step forward. His figure also disappeared in an instant. Ling Xiao glanced at Madame Fuyao and realized that she was looking at him. His heart skipped a beat and he smiled bitterly. He was in big trouble now. Gu Tongtian's cultivation was so terrifying. When he first arrived at Sacred Ancestor Mountain, although most of his aura was on the Imperial Tutor, just the aftermath alone was enough to make Ling Xiao feel that it was extraordinary. This ancient Tongtian sect leader was clearly a peerless, ruthless person. But Ling Xiao just had to sleep with someone else's daughter, and even slept with someone else's Dao companion. Would Gu Tongtian forgive Ling Xiao if he knew? Thinking of this, Ling Xiao's eyes turned, and he even planned to escape. At this moment, Madame Fuyao walked towards Ling Xiao. Greetings, madam. Ling Xiao cupped his hands and bowed to Madame Fuyao. His expression was a little awkward, not knowing what to say. But in the next moment, Madame Fuyao's words made Ling Xiao's hair stand on end. You are not the Lei Ling of the past. Madame Fuyao transmitted her voice to Ling Xiao in a very certain tone. Madam, what do you mean? I am indeed no longer the Lei Ling of the past. The immortal root in my body has collapsed and I have fused with the god bone. I am now a member of the god race. Although Ling Xiao's heart was shaken, he didn't show it on his face. You know what I mean. However, I have no ill intentions. Regardless of whether Lei Ling died in your hands, or what kind of identity you have, I'm not interested. The only thing that interests me is that you've become the son of God. Madame Fuyao transmitted her voice to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao was silent for a moment. He was somewhat unsure of Madame Fuyao's intentions, but he still calmly replied, Madam, I was able to become the son of God, because you allowed me to enter the Hall of Gods. Allowing you to enter the Hall of Gods was also my intention. If it was the Lei Ling of the past, he would never have been able to become the son of God. Therefore you are not Lei Ling. I just hope that you can promise me one thing. Madame Fuyao said slowly. What is it? When you have the ability, kill Gu Tongtian. Madame Fuyao's words made Ling Xiao's heart tremble. He had originally thought that Madame Fuyao would threaten him, or make him do something. He had never thought that Madame Fuyao would actually want him to kill Gu Tongtian. Who was Gu Tongtian? The leader of the old god cult, a peerless immortal monarch from 10,000 years ago. Now he was probably only a step away from becoming an emperor. Most importantly, Gu Tongtian was Madame Fuyao's husband. Ling Xiao could hear the undisguised hatred and murderous intent in Madame Fuyao's words. She really wanted Gu Tongtian to die. Madam, aren't you making things too difficult for me? I have just broken through to the immortal monarch realm. The gap between me and the leader is too great. Even if I break through to the 9th level of the immortal monarch realm, it will still be very difficult for me to kill him. Most importantly, why do you want me to kill him? Ling Xiao smiled wryly. You don't need to know why I want you to kill Gu Tongtian. But you must promise me, or you will not be able to move an inch in the world of immortals. Madame Fuyao said faintly. Madam, are you threatening me? Ling Xiao frowned slightly. It's not a threat. Consider it a collaboration. Just you wait. Don't think that just because Gu Tongtian saved you today, he will kill you even if you don't kill him. Madame Fu Yao sneered. Gu Tongtian wants to kill me? What do you mean? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. You will find out soon enough. Madame Fu Yao glanced at Ling Xiao and smiled faintly. Ling Xiao didn't like Madame Fu Yao's way of saying things halfway, but there was nothing he could do about it. What he didn't understand was how he had been exposed. After all, he had merged with Lei Ling's body, primordial spirit, and immortal root. He was no different from Lei Ling. How did Madame Fu Yao find out? Was it because he hadn't been intimate with Madame Fu Yao? Ling Xiao cursed in his heart. Women were indeed not to be trifled with. The mess that Lei Ling had left behind had all fallen on his head. Madame Fu Yao didn't say much, because the grand elders of the other 5 divine sects, as well as Zhan Chen and Yun Shi, had surrounded him. They protected Ling Xiao in the center, their expressions extremely vigilant, but also full of anticipation. It wasn't that they didn't want to leave, but there were figures looming in the void all around, and there was also a powerful formation shrouding them. It was a formation left behind by the Imperial Tutor. If they left rashly, they would fall into the Imperial Tutor's trap, so the best way was to wait here for sect leader Tongtian's return. They were full of confidence in sect leader Tongtian. After all, his strength was deeply ingrained in their hearts, and he was known as the strongest person in the 6 divine sections. Even in the entire world of immortals, there were only a few people who could compare to sect leader Tongtian. Sect leader Tongtian didn't let them down, and soon he returned. Sect leader Tongtian, how was the result? Cheng Kaitai's eyes lit up, and he couldn't wait to ask. He was defeated. Sect leader Tongtian smiled faintly. Just these 3 words instantly put everyone's heart at ease, and their eyes were filled with incomparable excitement, as expected of sect leader Tongtian. However, sect leader Tongtian's next sentence shocked them again. The Immortal Demon Cave has already shown signs of opening, so the Immortal Demon Conference is about to begin. We have to rush to the Immortal Demon Cave now. The success or failure of this Immortal Demon Conference will all depend on the God's child. Gu Tongtian said slowly, and finally his gaze fell on Ling Xiao, with a hint of scrutiny, as if he wanted to see through Ling Xiao. Chapter 30:11. Under Gu Tongtian's gaze, Ling Xiao felt an inexplicable pressure. To be more precise, he felt a little guilty. Gu Tongtian's strength was beyond Ling Xiao's expectations. 10,000 years ago, sect leader Tongtian was already a peerless immortal monarch. Now his strength was even more unfathomable. Even if he had not proven his Tao and become an emperor, he was not far from it. Even if such a person had been in seclusion all this time, how could he not know what had happened in the old god cult? Back then, Lei Ling was only an immortal king, but he was audacious enough to seduce Gu Tongtian's daughter and wife at the same time. Now that Ling Xiao thought about it, he doubted how Lei Ling had survived back then. You are Lei Ling? Gu Tongtian looked at Ling Xiao and asked. That's right. I am Lei Ling. Greetings, sect leader Tongtian. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, his expression as usual. That's right. To be able to become the son of God is your fortune, and also the fortune of the Sheng clan. This time, you will be the leader of the Sheng clan in the Immortal Demon Cave. Gu Tongtian nodded and said. His face was dignified, and his eyes were deep. His aura was powerful and terrifying, unfathomable. Ling Xiao did not find anything strange about him. Good. Ling Xiao nodded and said. Sect leader, you are finally out of seclusion. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have died in the hands of Qing Yun. Madame Fu Yao flew towards Gu Tongtian, her face full of surprise. She gently nestled in Gu Tongtian's arms, and her voice was a little coquettish. Bitch. Yunqi Saintis was also very excited and flew towards Gu Tongtian, but she did not expect Madame Fu Yao to beat her to it. She could not help but curse. Thank you for your hard work, madam. But now madam can relax a little. Although your husband did not break through in seclusion this time, I have found the path ahead. I should not be far from that step. Gu Tongtian's expression relaxed, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He gently patted Madame Fuyao's shoulder. That step. Madame Fuyao's body trembled, and her eyes immediately revealed a look of incomparable surprise. She naturally knew what the step Gu Tongtian was talking about was. It was the pinnacle of the great Tao that countless people were pursuing, the supreme great emperor realm. If the god race could produce a great emperor, would they be bullied to this extent by the immortal race? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. Had Tongtian already touched the great emperor realm? This step had trapped countless geniuses since ancient times. Even the emperor of Kunwu Mountain and Jiang Yuyang did not dare to say that they had touched the great emperor realm. Gu Tongtian was indeed extraordinary. After chatting for a while, they left Ancestral Mountain. The 6 divine sects agreed to meet at the Immortal Demon Grotto. No one had expected the Immortal Devil Gathering to start so early. They had thought that it would take some time. However, since the Immortal Demon Grotto was acting strangely, they had to go back and make preparations. Ling Xiao had become the son of God. In name, he was the leader of the 6 divine sects. The genius disciples of the 6 divine sects had all submitted to Ling Xiao. However, there was a lot of filth within the 6 divine sects. Although they acknowledged Ling Xiao's identity as the son of God, it would not be easy for him to control the 6 divine sects. No matter where one went, strength was always the most important. However, Ling Xiao did not intend to control the 6 major religions now. Just the God clan mark was not enough. Once he obtained the Cauldron of Fortune, he would naturally become the true master of the God clan with the addition of 2 great treasures. However, Ling Xiao was still extremely wary of Gu Tongtian. Gu Tongtian seemed to know nothing about the matter between Ling Xiao, Yunxi, and Fuyao. He did not show any abnormalities. However, Ling Xiao still felt that Gu Tongtian was a little unreal, as if there was a layer of fog between them. After returning to the old god sect, Gu Tongtian took out an item that caused Ling Xiao, Fuyao, and Yunxi's expressions to change. It was Zhou Gan's head. Zhou Gan's eyes were wide open, as if he could not believe that he would die at Gu Tongtian's hands. Lei Ling, Zhou Gan was my disciple, but he colluded with the immortals and framed you for being disrespectful to Yunxi and Fuyao. He let me down. Therefore, I killed him to clear your name. Gu Tongtian looked straight at Ling Xiao and said indifferently. Boom. It was as if something had exploded in Ling Xiao's head. Although Gu Tongtian spoke very vaguely, Ling Xiao could still tell that Zhou Gan had discovered the relationship between Ling Xiao, Yunxi, and Fuyao, and had told Gu Tongtian about it. However, Gu Tongtian's choice was beyond Ling Xiao's expectations. Gu Tongtian was not angry and did not immediately seek confirmation from Ling Xiao and Fuyao. Instead, he chose to kill his own personal disciple. Ling Xiao could not help but feel a chill in his heart. This ancient Tongtian sect master was really vicious and merciless. Although thoughts were running through his mind, Ling Xiao did not show it on his face. He pretended to be surprised and said, Sect master, I don't think I have offended brother Zhou Gan. Why would he slander me? Could it be because I snatched his spot to enter the Hall of Gods? Fuyao also said with a calm expression, Sect master, you killed him well. Zhou Gan is your personal disciple. Just because I did not let him enter the Hall of Gods, he bore a grudge against me and Lei Ling. He even wanted to drive a wedge between us. He is simply heartless and unscrupulous. He deserves to die 1,000 times. However, Yunxi's face revealed a trace of reluctance as she said, Father, although Zhou Gan did something wrong, you shouldn't have killed him. She was kind-hearted. Although she usually loathed Zhou Gan, she had never thought of taking his life. Now that she saw Zhou Gan's head, it was a huge blow to her. She found it hard to accept for a moment. Zhou Gan indeed deserves to die, using his death in exchange for the God Clan's son of gods. I think it's a good deal. What do you think, Lei Ling? Gu Tongtian smiled faintly. His gaze landed on Ling Xiao as if it had materialized. Sect master is right, Ling Xiao said calmly. However, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart as he recalled what Fuyao had said before. Gu Tongtian wanted to kill him. Gu Tongtian's killing intent was so weak that even experts of the same level could not detect it. However, Ling Xiao had become an emperor with the 12 Great Tao origins. The Great Tao of Destiny and the Great Tao of Karma were extremely sensitive to such thoughts of good and evil. The secret skill of destiny and the secret skill of karma had evolved into many wonderful secret skills. Ling Xiao could clearly feel that Gu Tongtian's killing intent towards him had only flashed for a moment. It was as if there was some kind of concern that prevented Gu Tongtian from attacking Ling Xiao now. You want to kill me? Very well. I want to see what kind of medicine you're selling in your gourd. Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. Chapter 30:12. The Immortal Demon Grotto was located in the center of the immortal world. The Immortal Demon Grotto was a mysterious place in the middle of the 6 major sects and the eternal immortal dynasty. The land was vast and the mountain ranges were undulating. There was a huge whirlpool in the sky that was black and white. Divine light and immortal light intertwined, as if it led to another world. That huge whirlpool was the Immortal Demon Grotto. The Immortal Demon Grotto was usually sealed. The Divine Tao and Immortal Tao intertwined to form a perfect balance that sealed the grotto. Only once in a while, when the Immortal Demon Grotto showed signs of movement, and the passageway opened, could one enter the Immortal Demon Grotto. The Immortal Demon Grotto was an ancient ruin, also known as the Imperial Battleground. There were countless inheritances and dangers in the Imperial Battleground. When the Immortal Demon Grotto first appeared, many people in the immortal world obtained powerful inheritances and became experts. But later, the Immortal Demon Grotto became the venue for the Immortal Demon Assembly. When the Immortal Demon Grotto opened, the Immortal Clan and the Immortal Clan would send their experts to fight in the grotto. The final winner would obtain the 6 great Tao states. Over the years, the Immortal Clan lost more and more. The 9 major sects grew stronger and stronger, causing the Immortal Clan's habitat to shrink. At this rate, the Immortal Clan would lose all the Tao states to the 9 major sects in 2 more Immortal Demon Assemblies. And this Immortal Demon Assembly was extremely crucial. Whether it was the 6 major sects or the 9 major sects, they all wanted to win this Immortal Demon Assembly, because the legendary Eternal Emperor Road was about to open, and the Eternal Emperor Road was inextricably linked to the Immortal Demon Grotto. Originally, the Immortal Demon Grotto was filled with chaotic power of laws, so few people went there. But over the past few days, many people had appeared around the grotto. The Immortal Demon Grotto began to emit a blazing light. Mysterious space laws filled the air, indicating that the grotto was about to open. When Ling Xiao arrived, he saw that the Immortal Demon Grotto in the void was spewing out blazing rays of light and origin energy. Because of the Immortal Demon Grotto, the originally barren land had become a holy land for cultivation. Many people came to the Immortal Demon Grotto to borrow the majestic origin energy to cultivate. Among them, there were people from the 9 great immortal sects, as well as some rogue cultivators and experts from small clans and sections. Although they couldn't enter the Immortal Demon Grotto, they could use the massive amount of origin energy here to improve their cultivation before the grotto opened. With Ling Xiao as the leader, the old god cult sent out a total of 90 experts. Besides Ling Xiao, who was an imperial monarch, the others were all at the Immortal King Realm and Immortal Exalt Realm. The minimum requirement for the Immortal Demon Gathering was to be at the Immortal King Realm. As for the upper limit of cultivation, there was no requirement, but the age had to be below 10,000 years old. Therefore, it was decided that no matter if it was the 6 divine sects or the 9 immortal sects, they would send out their young disciples. Yunqi Saintess had wanted to participate in the Immortal Demon Conference, but she was rejected by Gu Tongtian. Using the reason that Yunqi Saintess had awakened her divine bloodline, she was forced to cultivate in seclusion. Therefore, with Ling Xiao as the leader, the old god cult sent out 90 experts, while Gu Tongtian hid in the dark and would only appear when the Immortal Demon Conference truly began. When Ling Xiao arrived at the Immortal Demon Grotto, he found that the area was shrouded in dense origin energy, like an ethereal cloud. Some of the experts from the 9 immortal sects had already arrived, occupying the peaks closest to the Immortal Demon Grotto, and were devouring the origin energy gushing out of the grotto. Among the 6 divine sects, the Still Destruction sect had also arrived. With Lung Feng as the leader, the Still Destruction sect had a total of 90 disciples, occupying a peak. However, Ling Xiao found that the Still Destruction sect was in conflict with someone else. All-Kate Immortal sect. Aren't you being a little too overbearing? We came here first. What right do you have to force us to leave? A disciple of the Still Destruction sect said indignantly. In front of them was a group of young men and women in Taoist robes, their temperaments transcendent and ethereal. Their faces were cold, and their eyes were as bright and mysterious as the stars. They exuded an air of superiority from head to toe. Overbearing? Do you think lowly ants like you are worthy of occupying this mountain? Get out of here. Or don't blame us for being rude. A young man with a cold face sneered. His eyes were full of disdain. There were a total of 9 peaks closest to the immortal demon grotto. These 9 peaks could be called sacred grounds for cultivation, shrouded in boundless origin energy. The 9 immortal sects were the first to discover the changes in the immortal demon grotto, so they arrived early and occupied the most advantageous terrain. The other 8 peaks were occupied by the other 8 immortal sects. After the Still Destruction sect arrived, they occupied the 9th peak under the leadership of Lung Feng. When the All-Kate Immortal sect arrived, they naturally targeted the peak occupied by the Still Destruction sect, and came to cause trouble. The disciples of the other 8 immortal sects looked at the people from the Still Destruction sect and All-Kate Immortal sect with indifferent expressions, as if they were watching a show. However, everyone could see that the All-Kate Immortal sect was stronger than the Still Destruction sect. Devour. The strongest in the Still Destruction sect, Lung Feng and Ye Tianhe, were second-level immortal monarchs. They had both entered the Hall of Gods before, so they were the leaders of the Still Destruction sect. However, other than the 2 of them, the others were also immortal kings and immortal sovereigns. On the other hand, the All-Kate Celestial sect was different. Although there were only 60 people in the All-Kate Celestial sect, there were a total of 10 disciples from the Celestial Duke realm. Moreover, the young man in the lead was dressed in a starry Taoist robe, and was surrounded by celestial light. The immortal demon gathering hasn't started yet. Does the All-Kate Immortal sect want to fight with us? Lung Feng's eyes flashed coldly as he said coldly, "Fight with us? You think you're worthy? If you know what's good for you, get out of here. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't even be able to enter the immortal demon grotto." The cold young man said. The disciples of the 9 immortal sects were naturally arrogant. They were incomparably arrogant in front of the other immortal sects, let alone the people from the 6 immortal sects. In the eyes of the 9 immortal sects, the disciples of the 6 immortal sects were targets to be hunted down. They didn't have the right to stand with them. Therefore, the All-Kate Immortal sect naturally thought that they should occupy this peak. What if we don't leave? Lung Feng said coldly with a trace of killing intent in his eyes. Don't leave? If you don't leave, then stay here. Among the disciples of the All-Kate Immortal sect, the young man who was surrounded by the stars finally spoke. He was Ren Tianjue, the most talented holy son of the All-Kate Immortal sect. The holy son Ren Xiaoyao was his younger brother. Chapter 30:13. Clang. 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 The sound of swords being unsheathed could be heard as the disciples of Terminator sect and All-Kate Immortal sect took out their weapons. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they stared at each other. It was as if a great battle was about to break out. Lung Feng stared at Ren Tianjue as his blood and qi surged around him. His nirvana origin body emitted a blood-red radiance that was filled with an aura of nirvana. His battle intent soared. Initially, they would be patient when facing the 9 immortal sects. However, ever since they followed God's child, the bloodline shackles were broken, and they became part of the deity clan. The pride and glory of the deity clan had returned. Lung Feng and Ye Tianhe had no intention of backing down, even if it meant a great battle with Ren Tianjue. Stubborn. Ren Tianjue sneered coldly. He didn't take Lung Feng and Ye Tianhe seriously at all. His body was surrounded by dazzling immortal light, and there was a faint galaxy that appeared in his eyes, making him look even more mysterious. The genius disciples of the 6 immortal sects couldn't be compared to the disciples of the 9 immortal sects. Even if they were in the same realm, they would lose more than they would win, let alone Ren Tianjue, who was 1 realm higher than them. Ren Tianjue decided to teach Lung Feng and Ye Tianhe a lesson to intimidate the 6 immortal sects. In the eyes of the 9 immortal sects, The so-called Immortal Demon Conference was their home ground. The disciples of the 6 immortal sects were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. All-Kate Immortal Sect is really impressive. At this moment, a calm voice resounded in the void. Ling Xiao walked over with the disciples of the Old God Sect. His eyes were calm and deep as they fell on Ren Tianjue, exuding a majestic aura. Greetings, God's child. Lung Feng and Nie Tianhe couldn't help but tremble when they saw Ling Xiao. Their eyes were filled with excitement as they bowed to Ling Xiao. Old God Sect? Who are you? How dare you meddle in the affairs of All-Kate Immortal Sect? Ren Tianjue glanced at Ling Xiao and said coldly. He could see that Ling Xiao was only a first heaven immortal lord. How dare he act so presumptuously in front of him? How ridiculous. I'll give you 3 breaths time to get lost. Ling Xiao said calmly. How dare you? What are you? How dare you be so impudent in front of our holy son? A disciple from the All-Kate Immortal School shouted. A sharp light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. In an instant, it was as though a sharp beam of light had pierced through the void and slammed into the body of that disciple. Boom. The All-Kate Immortal Sect's disciple's body trembled, as if he was struck by lightning. Blood spurted out from between his eyebrows as he was sent flying. Even though he had the cultivation of an immortal venerable, he still couldn't withstand a single glance from Ling Xiao. How dare you? Ren Tianjue's eyes flashed with a cold light. He didn't expect Ling Xiao to be so tyrannical, directly attacking the disciples of the All-Kate Immortal Sect. Rumble. Blazing immortal light rose around him, as if there was a river of stars lingering around him, causing his aura to become incomparably terrifying. 3 breaths have passed. Looks like you didn't take my words to heart. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Boom. His eyes instantly became incomparably sharp, like a peerless sword light. His aura became incomparably terrifying as he threw a punch towards Ren Tianjue. Chaotic light rose. This punch was purely based on the strength of his physical body. However, the fist intent was extremely overbearing, as if an ancestor god had descended to the world, suppressing the heavens. It was extremely ferocious and overbearing. Ren Tianjue's expression changed drastically as he instantly felt a fatal danger approaching him. Zhou Tian's Great Starfall Immortal Technique. Ren Tianjue roared as he displayed the supreme immortal technique of the All-Kate Immortal Sect. Blazing immortal light rose around his body, transforming into a vast river of stars. Endless starlight sprinkled down as supreme stars appeared out of thin air, containing unparalleled divine strength, suppressing Ling Xiao. At the same time, the river of stars gathered around him as if it had separated the endless time and space in an instant, forming an incomparably powerful defensive starry divine light. Kacha. A huge fist print swept across the sky, causing the supreme stars to explode instantly like they were made of paper. They could not stop the fist print at all. The so-called Zhou Tian's Great Starfall Immortal Technique was so fragile under Ling Xiao's punch. Even the defensive starry divine light around Ren Tianjue was shattered with a loud bang. Ling Xiao's punch landed on Ren Tianjue's chest without any hindrance. Boom. The starry robe on Ren Tianjue's body trembled violently before it exploded into a pile of dust. Ren Tianjue's chest caved in, and a huge bloody hole appeared in the air. Ren Tianjue was sent flying as blood spurted out of his mouth. With a single punch, Ren Tianjue, who was a 3rd heaven high immortal, was defeated. What? Everyone from the All-Kate Immortal Sect was stunned. Ren Tianjue was their eldest senior brother, and the most powerful saint in the All-Kate Immortal Sect. How could he not even be able to withstand a single punch from Ling Xiao? The surrounding experts from the other 8 immortal sects were also extremely shocked. They had originally thought that they were just watching a show and did not care about it. Moreover, they also believed that the Terminator Immortal Sect would be at a disadvantage in the end. However, they did not expect such an outcome. The young man from the Old God Sect was actually so powerful. Who was he? It's him? Lei Ling? In the heaven-piercing Immortal Sect, a young man suddenly opened his eyes. Sharp sword radiance gushed out, causing countless ancient swords around him to hum. He was the Sword Heart Saint of the heaven-piercing Immortal Sect. It was as if Ling Xiao's punch had startled him and awakened him from his cultivation. He instantly saw the scene of Ling Xiao defeating Ren Tianjue with a single punch. Speaking of which, he had a bet with Ling Xiao regarding the shards of the divine cauldron. At that time he did not take Ling Xiao seriously at all. After all, the gap between him and Ling Xiao was too big. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao to break through to the high immortal realm in such a short period of time. Moreover, his combat strength had increased tremendously. Very good. Only then are you worthy of my sword. The sword heart saint whispered to himself as a strong fighting spirit surged in his eyes. Ling Xiao's punch had defeated Ren Tianjue, which made all the disciples of the Terminator Immortal sect and the Old God sect extremely excited. Lung Feng and Ye Tianhe even felt that it was natural. The Son of God was peerless. How could a mere Ren Tianjue be a match for the Son of God? The contempt in the eyes of the people from the 9 great immortal sects had also disappeared. Instead, they looked at Ling Xiao with a solemn expression. Ling Xiao's strength had made them start to take the fight seriously. Chapter 30:14. He is Lei Ling. Someone exclaimed and revealed Ling Xiao's identity. Lei Ling? That Lei Ling who is known as the romantic immortal king? Isn't he a member of the immortal tribe? How did he become a member of the ancient god cult? No. Have you noticed? There is no immortal Dao aura on Lei Ling's body. Even his immortal root has disappeared. Instead, he has an extremely pure god Dao aura. This bastard destroyed his immortal root and merged it with his god bone? He is a traitor to the immortal tribe. That's right. Lei Ling is a traitor to the immortal tribe, a scum. After the people from the 9 major immortal sects discovered Ling Xiao's identity and the disappearance of his immortal root, they were instantly filled with righteous indignation. Their gazes towards Ling Xiao were filled with disdain and anger. In their opinion, the immortal tribe was superior and was the most powerful tribe in the universe. How could someone betray the immortal tribe and become a member of the God tribe? This was unforgivable. However, because Ling Xiao had just defeated Ren Tianjue with one punch and displayed an extremely powerful combat strength, they did not dare to make a move. They could only discuss softly. Lei Ling, very good. I will remember you. Ren Tianjue coughed up blood, and his face was extremely pale. He looked at Ling Xiao with anger and fear. However, he also understood that he had kicked an iron plate. Therefore, he only left behind a ruthless sentence and left the mountain with the disciples of the All-Cade Immortal sect. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. He did not say anything and allowed Ren Tianjue and the rest to leave. In fact, he had originally intended to leave Ren Tianjue behind. However, he felt that in the depths of the void, there were several powerful auras. Those were the most powerful people from the 9 major immortal sects. And there was no lack of peerless immortal dukes. If Ling Xiao dared to make a move, they would definitely stop him. Ling Xiao thought for a while and decided not to make a move. Anyway, the Immortal Demon Conference was about to begin. By then, it would be easy to kill Ren Tianjue. In the past Immortal Demon Conferences, the Immortal Tribe had taken the role of the hunter. They treated the God Tribe as their prey and killed many powerful people from the God Tribe. However, this time, Ling Xiao felt that it was time to reverse the situation. It was time for the Celestials to have a taste of the fear of being hunted. Sir God's child, there are still a few days before the Immortal Demon Grotto opens. Please stay here and cultivate. Lung Feng said to Ling Xiao. He took the initiative to hand over the mountain peak to Ling Xiao. Dense divine Dao and immortal Dao aura gushed out from the Immortal Demon Grotto, as well as boundless origin energy. Cultivating here could be said to be progressing by leaps and bounds. Furthermore, by absorbing the power of the source, he would be able to integrate with the aura of the Immortal Demon Cave better. By then, there would be fewer obstacles when entering the Immortal Demon Cave. Therefore, the people of the 9 great immortal sects were seizing the time to cultivate and devour the surging origin energy. No need. Cultivate well here, I have a better place. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His eyes flickered as he looked at the Sword Heart Saint, who was on a mountain peak in the distance. Wang. Their gazes clashed in the air, causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. The surrounding origin energy surged, sweeping out in all directions like a storm. Ling Xiao took a step forward and appeared in front of the Sword Heart Saint. Sword Heart Saint, we meet again. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Lei Ling, I didn't expect you to betray the old god sect. The Sword Heart Saint said faintly. Betray the old god sect? That's not right. I am a member of the deity tribe. How can I betray the immortal tribe? But you, have you brought the shards of the divine cauldron? Ling Xiao shook his head and said. This time, he was here for the shards of the divine cauldron. The shards of the divine cauldron from the 6 great immortal sects were already in his hands. If he could obtain the shards of the divine cauldron from the heaven-piercing immortal sect, then he would be able to collect a large portion of the cauldron of creation. Ling Xiao always felt that if he could obtain the shards of the divine cauldron in advance, it might be beneficial for him to enter the immortal demon cave. The shards of the divine cauldron are all with me. What about the immortal culling sword? The Sword Heart Saint's eyes were filled with strong battle intent. There was a bet between him and Ling Xiao. It was regarding the ownership of the shards of the divine cauldron, the great immortal culling art, and the immortal culling sword. The Sword Heart Saint had been preparing for this battle for a long time. Although Ling Xiao had just defeated Ren Tianjue with one punch, he was not afraid, but was filled with confidence and battle intent. The immortal culling sword is naturally in my hands too. As for the gambling match between you and me, I think it's better to do it now than to pick a date. How about we fight today? Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Sure. You have broken through to the immortal realm, so I am not bullying you. But you can't win this battle. The Sword Heart Saint said indifferently, his eyes as bright as a blade. Lei Ling wants to fight with the Sword Heart Saint. Everyone couldn't help but be stunned. They had initially thought that Ling Xiao was audacious and wanted to snatch the mountain peak of the heaven-piercing immortal sect. They had not expected Ling Xiao to fight with the Sword Heart Saint. The Sword Heart Saint's strength was unparalleled. Among the 9 great immortal sects, he was ranked in the top 3. Moreover, the Sword Heart Saint's cultivation had reached the peak of the 3rd heaven of the immortal realm. He was not someone Ren Tianjue, who had just broken through to the 3rd heaven of the immortal realm, could compare with. The Sword Heart Saint was the most dazzling sword genius of the heaven-piercing immortal sect. He had cultivated the great immortal slaying art and great immortal trapping art. His strength was unfathomable. How dare Lei Ling challenge the Sword Heart Saint? Lei Ling is courting death. His physical body is strong. Although he has just defeated Ren Tianjue, does he really think he can defeat the Sword Heart Saint? Someone sneered. He is overestimating himself. I think he will die under the Sword Heart Saint's sword in this battle. The Immortal Demon Conference has not started yet, but the 6 great immortal sects and the 9 great immortal sects can't wait to fight? I don't think so. They probably won't fight. The Eternal Immortal Dynasty will not allow them to fight outside the Immortal Demon Cave. Everyone was discussing. Most of them did not think that Lei Ling could defeat the Sword Heart Saint. There were also people who thought that the battle between Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint would not happen. After all, the Immortal Demon Conference was about to start. The Eternal Immortal Dynasty was the initiator of the Immortal Demon Conference. Although the Eternal Immortal Dynasty did not participate in the Immortal Demon Conference, they had absolute say in it. If Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint fought, it would be considered a private fight. It would be challenging the authority of the Eternal Immortal Dynasty. The people from the Eternal Immortal Dynasty should be arriving soon. Buzz. Just as everyone was discussing, a dazzling immortal light suddenly shone down from the void. Celestial music was pleasing to the ears, and flowers fell from the sky. A mysterious vision appeared, making the heaven and earth seem peaceful and ethereal. Everyone could not help but tremble. The people from the Eternal Immortal Dynasty had arrived. Chapter 30:15. A group of beautiful and refined women in light muslin walked through the air. Every single one of them had a peerless appearance and an ethereal temperament. Behind them were 2 rows of young warriors in black armor. They held long spears in their hands, and their faces were cold. They were surrounded by a murderous aura, and their eyes were cold. Their auras were extremely powerful. One look and one could tell that they were elites who had been through hundreds of battles. In the middle of the group were 9 golden dragons. They were pulling a void war chariot made of divine gold. The void war chariot was ancient and mysterious. It was surrounded by bright immortal light and emitted an emperor's aura. The muslin fluttered and auspicious air rose. A young figure seemed to be sitting on top of the war chariot. No one could see his face clearly, but there was a majestic aura around him. It was as if a heavenly emperor had come out. It was awe-inspiring. Hiss. Someone sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes filled with incomparable horror. 36 beautiful women, 36 armored warriors, and 9 golden divine dragons were all at the high immortal realm. The figure on top of the void war chariot was even more terrifying. Some people did not even dare to look at him. They could not help but lower their heads. Their hearts were filled with shock. The foundation of the eternal immortal dynasty was indeed terrifying. This is the 9th Prince's immortal emperor war chariot? I did not expect the 9th Prince to come to the immortal demon conference. Someone from the 9 great immortal sects exclaimed. His eyes were filled with excitement. The 9th Prince? Could he be the 9th Prince of the eternal immortal dynasty? The one who is said to be unparalleled and blessed by the heavens? It is said that he is the most talented of the 9 princes of the eternal immortal dynasty. Even the crown prince was not as good as the 9th Prince. He is highly regarded by the immortal emperor. Who would have thought that he would come? Someone discussed in a low voice. This 9th Prince could be said to be very famous in the immortal world. His name was like thunder to the ears. In the immortal world, the number 1 genius of the younger generation was none other than the 9th Prince. No one doubted this. Even the geniuses of the 9 immortal sects and the 6 major divine sects paled in comparison to the 9th Prince. They were like fireflies before the bright moon. The Tai celestial sect was the strongest of the 9 major celestial sections. Back when the 9th Prince had become a celestial duke, he had defeated Tai Yuan, the saint of the Tai celestial sect, with just one punch. At that time, the 9th Prince had defeated Tai Yuan, who was 2 minor realms higher than the 9th Prince. He was defeated without any suspense. On a mountain closest to the immortal demon cave, Tai Yuan slowly opened his eyes among the disciples of the Tai celestial sect. His eyes were filled with dread when he looked at the figure in the void chariot. Even though Tai Yuan was already a 5th level high immortal, and could be considered the strongest among the younger generation of the 9 great immortal sects, he still hadn't reached the peak. However, he still did not have the confidence to face the 9th Prince. His Highness has ordered that before the immortal demon cave opens, no one is allowed to fight. Beside the chariot, an old man in a Taoist robe, with white hair and a ruddy face like a baby, said indifferently. His voice was like thunder spreading in all directions. Boom. A powerful and terrifying pressure spread out from his body and spread out in all directions. Everyone could not help but tremble as their eyes were filled with shock. The old man in the Taoist robe was a peerless celestial duke. The eternal celestial dynasty attached great importance to this immortal demon conference. Not only had they sent the 9th Prince, but they had also sent a peerless celestial duke. A peerless celestial duke was a peerless expert who stood at the 9th level of the celestial duke realm. They were the strongest below the great emperors, and their strength was unfathomable. Even among the 9 major celestial sects, there were very few of them. It's him. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he looked at the immortal emperor chariot. He recognized the 9th Prince. So the mysterious celestial prince in the demon world was the 9th Prince. Ling Zhao had not expected to meet the 9th Prince of the immortals here. Moreover, the 9th Prince's cultivation was unfathomable. Even Ling Zhao could not tell what level he was at. Lei Ling, since the 9th Prince has given the order, let's postpone our battle. We'll continue after we enter the immortal demon cave. The Sword Heart Saint looked at Ling Zhao and said plainly, the 9 major celestial sects were under the rule of the eternal celestial dynasty. Therefore, the Sword Heart Saint could only obey the 9th Prince's orders. Sure. But I hope that the Sword Heart Saint can keep the 32 shards of the sacred cauldron with you. They are my spoils of war. Ling Zhao smiled faintly. Shameless boasting. Let's talk about it after you defeat me. The Sword Heart Saint sneered and returned to the heavenly connecting immortal sect disciples. Seeing that Ling Zhao and the Sword Heart Saint did not fight, The spectators were disappointed. However, because of the ninth prince's arrival, everyone became obedient. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He could feel the ninth prince's gaze on him from the immortal emperor chariot. At this moment, a woman in a veil floated over and arrived in front of Ling Xiao. Lei Ling, my prince invites you. Please follow me. She looked at Ling Xiao and said plainly, devour. All right. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment and replied plainly. He also wanted to see what the ninth prince wanted to do. Ling Xiao did not think that the ninth prince would be able to recognize him. Perhaps it was because he had become the son of God. Ling Xiao came to the side of the immortal emperor chariot. Buzz. There was a cloud of mist and a dazzling celestial light. The veil on the immortal emperor chariot slowly parted, revealing the figure inside. That was a perfect and flawless man. On the immortal emperor chariot, the ninth prince was wearing a white robe. He was tall and slender, and his skin was as white as ivory. He was crystal clear and exuded a celestial light. He had an extremely perfect face and was as handsome as jade. It was as if he had transcended the mortal world. His entire body was intertwined with Tao and truth. His face was calm and there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. His eyes contained an extremely mysterious light, as if he could see the birth and death of the heavens. It was also like a deep starry sky that made people want to sink into it. It was indeed the prince of the immortal tribe that Ling Xiao had met before. Even his appearance was exactly the same. Are you Lei Ling? There's a familiar aura on your body. Have we met before? The ninth prince said plainly. His voice was ethereal and gentle. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. The ninth prince had a sharp intuition. However, Ling Xiao did not show it and said, I am Lei Ling. Today is the first time I have met your highness. Is that so? Then I might have sensed wrongly. His Highness the ninth prince smiled faintly. Chapter 30:16. What business does the ninth prince have with me? Ling Xiao glanced at the ninth prince and asked calmly. The ninth prince seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog, like an unfathomable ocean. No one could sense his true cultivation level. However, Ling Xiao could feel that the ninth prince gave him a very dangerous feeling. Lei Ling, you were originally from the immortal tribe, but I did not expect you to become the god's child. My purpose for meeting you is simple. Become my follower and I will guarantee that you will be able to become an emperor. His Highness the ninth prince smiled faintly. He didn't try to hide anything and directly stated his purpose. He actually wanted to recruit Ling Xiao and make Ling Xiao his follower. You will guarantee that I will become an emperor? Your Highness, you haven't become an emperor yet, have you? Ling Xiao smiled calmly and said noncommittally. The ninth prince had said the same thing back in the demon realm's great desolation secret realm. Although the ninth prince's cultivation was unfathomable, he was only a celestial lord. Since he had not proven his Tao and become an emperor, where did he get the confidence to guarantee that Ling Xiao would be able to prove his Tao and become an emperor? An emperor could dominate the heavens and was invincible. He was the most powerful person in the heavens, not a cabbage. How could he become an emperor just because he wanted to? Although Ling Xiao did not know what the ninth prince was relying on, he naturally did not believe his words. He believed that he could reach that step by relying on himself, and without the help of others. The ninth prince seemed to understand what Ling Xiao meant and smiled calmly. Lei Ling, I know you don't believe me, but you don't know how strong the eternal immortal dynasty is. If I say that I will guarantee that you will become an emperor, you will definitely become an emperor. However, I don't expect you to give me an answer now. After the Immortal Demon Conference, if you are still alive, you have the right to become my follower. The ninth prince's voice was filled with confidence. Moreover, the meaning behind his words was that Ling Xiao did not have the qualifications to become his follower. Only after surviving the immortal demon gathering and being surrounded by the 9 great immortal sects would he have the qualifications to become the ninth prince's follower. I am from the god tribe now, not the immortal tribe. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Ling Zhao's eyes glinted as he spoke indifferently. Although he was displeased with the ninth prince's words, he did not say anything else. Instead, he turned and left. However, Ling Xiao had a premonition that he and the ninth prince would have a battle sooner or later. Looking at Ling Xiao's departing figure, the ninth prince's eyes flashed with a strange light. Your Highness, although this Lei Ling is the son of God, his cultivation is still too weak. Even if you subdue him and make him your follower, I'm afraid he won't be of much help to you on the Eternal Emperor's road, right? The old man in Taoist robes beside the immortal emperor chariot said slowly. His cultivation may not be of much help to me, but his identity is of great help to me. The Son of God is related to the destiny and fortune of the God race. If he follows me, then my final step will be complete. His Highness the Ninth Prince said with a faint smile. There was a strange light in his eyes. I'm just afraid that this person will be unruly and unwilling to become your follower. The old man in Taoist robes said as he looked at Ling Xiao's back. Don't worry, he will. If he dies in the immortal demon cave, it means that he's not the real Son of God. If he's still alive, then I'll personally subdue him. His Highness the Ninth Prince smiled faintly. If your Highness takes action personally, then there won't be a problem. The old man in Taoist robes nodded as if it was a matter of course. As long as the Ninth Prince took action, he would be able to completely subdue Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao led the disciples of the old god cult to a random mountain peak, and sat down cross-legged. He began to cultivate while waiting for the immortal demon cave to open. Although they didn't know what Ling Xiao and the Ninth Prince were talking about, everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity when they saw Ling Xiao being summoned by the Ninth Prince for such a long time. The Ninth Prince was a legend in the immortal world. It was said that the Ninth Prince had several followers, and each of them was extremely powerful. However, the Ninth Prince had very high requirements for his followers. Even the Taiyuan saint of the Tai immortal sect was not qualified to become his follower. Could it be that Ninth Prince is trying to recruit Lei Ling? Even the Taiyuan saint can't become the Ninth Prince's follower. What does Lei Ling do? Someone guessed in a low voice. Many of the genius disciples of the 9 major immortal sects looked at Ling Xiao with jealousy. Even the Taiyuan saint's face was a little gloomy. Although they did not know the details, the rumors were true. When the Taiyuan saint had been defeated by the Ninth Prince, he had wanted to become the Ninth Prince's follower. As a disciple of the Tai immortal sect, the Taiyuan saint knew better than anyone how powerful and terrifying the eternal immortal dynasty was. He also knew how strong the Ninth Prince was. If Taiyuan could become the Ninth Prince's follower, it would not be a disgrace, but an honor for him. However, the Ninth Prince had rejected him in the end. Although the Taiyuan saint felt extremely humiliated and angry, he did not dare to vent his anger because of the Ninth Prince's status. Now that he saw that the Ninth Prince favored Ling Xiao, the anger in his heart was transferred to Ling Xiao. What qualifications did a mere cultivation at the first level of the imperial monarch realm have to make the Ninth Prince look favorably upon him? The Taiyuan sage's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He made up his mind to bury Lei Ling in the immortal demon cave forever after they entered. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. He could feel many of the people from the 9 major immortal sects looking at him with ill intent. The Ninth Prince had only met him once, but he had become the target of public criticism. Ridiculous. If you dare to provoke me, don't blame me for being ruthless. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed coldly as he thought to himself. The people from the 9 major immortal sects all had their own ulterior motives. They had already regarded the people from the 6 major immortal sects as prey. This was also the custom of the immortal demon grotto. Every immortal demon grotto suffered heavy casualties. Almost 90% of the experts would die in the immortal demon grotto. This time, Ling Xiao's presence attracted the attention of the 9 major immortal sects. Before long, Zhan Chen, Wu Hen, and the others arrived. There were a total of 540 people from the 6 major immortal sects. Led by Ling Xiao, they sat cross-legged in front of the immortal demon grotto, devouring origin energy to cultivate while waiting for the grotto to open. The supreme experts from the 6 major immortal sects and the 9 major immortal sects had also arrived. They walked in the air, their auras incomparably powerful. They were watching every movement in the immortal demon grotto. Chapter 30:17. Ling Xiao sat cross-legged outside the immortal demon cave and used the heaven-devouring secret skill to devour the origin energy that was escaping from the immortal demon cave. Ling Xiao's heaven-devouring secret skill had been cultivated to perfection, but he was still a step away from evolving the heaven-devouring origin energy. Ling Xiao could vaguely feel that if the heaven-devouring secret skill evolved the heaven-devouring origin energy, it would definitely give him a huge surprise. Perhaps at that time, he could use the heaven-devouring Great Tao origin energy to forcefully devour the Great Tao origin energy of others. That was the most terrifying part of the heaven-devouring secret skill. The origin energy that was escaping from the immortal demon cave was very chaotic. It was intertwined with various Great Tao energy. Experts below the Imperial Emperor realm did not dare to absorb and refine too much of it. They would only try to understand the mysterious aura within the origin energy. However, Ling Xiao did not have such concerns. The blazing divine light around him seemed to have formed a huge whirlpool that was constantly devouring the origin energy around him. The people from the 9 immortal sects looked at Ling Xiao coldly. They were filled with malice and even killing intent. It was not just Ling Xiao. Even the people from the 6 immortal sects were like prey in the eyes of the people from the 9 immortal sects. Although the people from the 6 immortal sects were furious, they could not do anything. Ling Xiao ignored them. After all, they were just a bunch of dead people in his eyes. There was no need to be angry with dead people. Just like that, 3 days passed quickly. The origin energy that was spewing out from the immortal demon cave was getting denser and denser. The blazing divine light shone brightly, and the immortal light lingered around, evolving into various mysterious phenomena. Inside the immortal demon cave, layers upon layers of space rippled out like water, as if it contained an endless world. The immortal demon cave is opening. Someone's eyes flashed as he said slowly, "Rumble." As soon as he finished speaking, the immortal demon cave let out a thunderous roar. Blazing lightning rose up and chaotic mist was faintly discernible. It seemed to lead to another ancient world. A vast ancient and majestic mysterious aura gushed out. Everyone could not help but tremble. They felt that they were incomparably small, as if they had come to an ancient world. Their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Crack. In the immortal demon cave, a strange light flashed. It was colorful and dazzling. It made people unable to tell if it was real or an illusion. In front of everyone, it was as if a great Tao immortal flower bloomed. It was as bright as the sun, as vast as the starry sky. The space within the immortal demon grotto gradually became incomparably real. The rippling water calmed down, and a huge and ancient passageway appeared. The immortal demon cave was opened. At this moment, whether it was the people from the 9 sects or the 6 divine sects, all of them were looking at the immortal demon grotto with excitement and excitement. They knew immortal demon cave, and immortal demon cave. Immortal great immortal. This was because the immortal demon grotto represented limitless opportunities and good fortune. As long as one didn't die, one's cultivation could advance by leaps and bounds. And there was even a chance to prove the great Tao. Mortal sect. Immortal god sect from the sect, and sect was immortal sect. Immortal sect was immortal from both sect and immortal sect. Immortal realms. Other than the people from the Shun race and the 9 great immortal sects, there were also some rogue cultivators who were incomparably excited as their breathing quickened. Although the opening of the immortal demon cave was a meeting between the immortal race and the immortal race, it didn't stop some rogue cultivators from entering. As long as one's cultivation was above the immortal king realm, and below 10,000 years old, one could enter the immortal demon cave. However, every time the immortal demon grotto opened up, only a small number of cultivators would dare enter. At any rate, the immortal demon grotto was even more dangerous for loose cultivators. Rumble. The chariot emitted a resplendent light as the 9th prince stepped forward. He was enveloped in resplendent immortal light. His eyes were deep and indifferent. Everyone's eyes fell on the 9th prince. The 9th prince represented the eternal immortal dynasty, and was the host of the Immortal Demon Conference. Therefore, Both the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major divine sects had to follow his orders. The Immortal Devil Grotto has opened. The Immortal Devil Gathering has officially begun. The 6 major divine sects and the 9 major immortal sects will send 1,080 people into the Immortal Demon Grotto for 1 month. After 1 month, the winner will be the one with the most survivors. His Highness the 9th Prince said calmly. His voice was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. The people from the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major divine sects were calm. They already knew the rules. Each of the 9 major immortal sects would send out 60 people, making a total of 540 people. Each of the 6 major divine sects would send out 90 people, making a total of 540 people. These 1,080 people would enter the Immortal Demon Grotto, not to search for treasures or opportunities, but to kill. Killing was the main theme of the Immortal Demon Conference. Based on the hatred between the immortal race and the Shen race, once they entered the Immortal Demon Grotto without any restrictions or supervision, they would definitely fight to the death. The people from the 9 major immortal sects looked at the people from the 6 major divine sects with mocking and murderous eyes. They were like hungry wolves staring at sheep. After the 9th prince finished speaking, he returned to the chariot. Let's go. Taiyuan Saint's eyes flashed sharply. He leaped up and led the people from the 9 major immortal sects into the Immortal Demon Grotto. Let's go too. The people from the 6 major divine sects looked at Ling Xiao. After hearing his order, they leaped up and disappeared into the Immortal Demon Grotto. Finally, there were a few hundred rogue cultivators. Although there were tens of thousands of rogue cultivators around the Immortal Demon Grotto, only a few hundred of them had the guts to enter. These few hundred people could be considered as desperados. After all, according to the usual practice of the Immortal Demon Conference, the survival rate of rogue cultivators could be said to be less than 1%. This time, the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major divine sects had sent several supreme elders of the immortal monarch realm. However, among the 6 major divine sects, the ancient god sect had sent their sect master Gutong Tian, which attracted the attention of the crowd. After all, Gutong Tian was very famous in the immortal world. He was known as the genius of the divine clan. 10,000 years ago, he had stepped into the peerless immortal monarch realm. He had fought countless battles in his life and had never tasted defeat. Among the 9 major immortal sects, there were 2 peerless immortal monarchs. The sect master of the Tai Yi immortal sect, Tai Qingzi, and the sect master of the Tongtian immortal sect, Ning Yanji. In addition to the Taoist robed elder beside the 9th prince, there were 4 peerless immortal monarchs in this Immortal Demon Conference. Everyone looked at the 4 of them with eyes full of reverence. Peerless immortal monarchs were only 1 step away from the peerless emperor realm. Although that step had stopped countless people since ancient times, peerless immortal monarchs were the real powerhouses, and were invincible in the world as long as the great emperor did not appear. Chapter 30:18. Gutong Tian, it's been 10,000 years since we last met. Your cultivation has become even more unfathomable. Ning Yanji's gaze fell on Gutong Tian as he smiled faintly. He was dressed in a long white robe. He was a very refined middle-aged man with a gentle temperament. His eyebrows were like swords, and there seemed to be a mysterious sword domain flashing in his eyes. He was the sect master of the heaven-reaching immortal sect. What he cultivated was the sword Dao. Moreover, he had mastered the great immortal slaying art and the great immortal trapping art at the same time. He was a famous expert in the immortal world. However, what the crowd did not know was that 10,000 years ago, he had once fought against Gutong Tian. In the end, he was defeated by Gutong Tian. Therefore, although he looked extraordinary at this moment, he could not hide the trace of fighting spirit in his eyes. Ning Yanji, you're not bad either. But what are you doing here instead of staying in your Valley of Swords? Gutong Tian said indifferently. You should know why I did it. Of course I'm waiting for the immortal slaughtering sword to return to its rightful owner. Ning Yanji said with a smile. Return it to its rightful owner? How arrogant. Gutong Tian snorted coldly and said, The Heavenspan 4 immortal swords originally belonged to my divine race, but they were stolen by a lowly person like you. You still dare to say that they will be returned to their rightful owner? Is the Zhu Xian sword in the hands of your disciple, Jianxin? It seems like you really put in a lot of effort for the immortal slaughtering sword. Gu Tongtian did not give Ning Yanji any face when he spoke. Without the immortal exterminating sword, how can he contend against the immortal slaughtering sword? However, it's a pity that after this immortal demon conference, the divine child of your divine race will fall in the immortal demon cave. Ning Yanji was not angry at all and said leisurely, "Isn't it too early to say that? In my opinion, not only will your disciple Jianxin die, the execution fairy sword will also fall into the hands of the Son of God. Lei Ling is the one chosen by the heavens. Our God race will definitely win this battle." Gu Tongtian sneered. "There's no need for the two of you to argue. We'll see the results in a month." Tai Qingzi, the sect master of the Tai Yi celestial sect, said with a smile like a peacemaker. He looked like a transcendent being. His hair and beard were all white, and his appearance was unique. He held a walking stick in his hand, and his body was surrounded by celestial energy. Clear energy rose, and his temperament was extraordinary. "Tai Qingzi, you sure are willing. Even Taiyuan is willing to let him enter the immortal demon grotto. Isn't he afraid that he'll die inside?" Gu Tongtian glanced at Tai Qingzi and said faintly. Tai Qingzi looked gentle and kind, but Gu Tongtian knew that this old man was cruel and merciless. His strength was unfathomable. Compared to Tai Qingzi, Ning Yanji was still weaker. Although Gu Tongtian didn't take Ning Yanji seriously, he was wary of Tai Qingzi. What's there to be reluctant about? If he died in the immortal demon grotto, he could only blame himself for being too weak. If I can't even get past this tribulation, then what's the point of contending for the eternal emperor road? Tai Qingzi smiled. That's right. This was just a small tribulation. On the eternal emperor road, there are countless geniuses and monstrous geniuses from all over the universe. There are also countless peerless experts since ancient times. The immortal demon grotto was originally their training ground, but I'm afraid you divines won't have the chance. Ning Yanji nodded and said, "Contending for the eternal emperor road? You're all very ambitious. I'm afraid that your strength won't match your ambition, and you'll all die in the immortal demon grotto." Gu Tongtian sneered. In the past immortal demon meetings, the 9 great immortal sects had mostly sent out ordinary disciples to avoid casualties. But for this immortal demon meeting, almost all the saints and saintesses of the 9 great immortal sects had come out. Gu Tongtian naturally knew the reason behind this. An eternal emperor's road. This was an irresistible temptation for everyone. It seems that you have a lot of confidence in the divines. Gu Tongtian, why don't we make a bet? Ning Yanji's eyes flashed as he said with a smile. Bet on what? Let's bet on whether there are more survivors from the divines or the immortals in this immortal demon meeting. If there are more survivors from the immortals, then I'll win and you'll give me the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor. How about that? Ning Yanji said. The portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor? You're really arrogant. But what if you lose? Are you willing to part with your immortal slaying sword and immortal trapping sword? Gu Tongtian's eyes flashed and he said indifferently. The portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor was a supreme treasure that Gu Tongtian had obtained from the ancient ruins. It contained the Supreme Emperor Dao of the Grandmaster Great Emperor. By comprehending the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor, one might be able to comprehend the Emperor Dao of the Grandmaster Great Emperor and take the final step. Gu Tongtian had been comprehending the portrait for tens of thousands of years. It could be said that the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor was even more precious than an Apex Emperor weapon. Ning Yanji had been eyeing the portrait of the Tongtian Great Emperor for a long time. In his opinion, he was the most suitable person to study the portrait of the Tongtian Great Emperor, since he had reached the profound level of sword principle and comprehended the great immortal slaying technique and the great immortal trapping technique. Of course I can't give you the immortal slaying sword and immortal trapping sword, but since you've comprehended the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor, you must be very coveting the 4 great immortal techniques, right? If you win, I can give you the great immortal trapping technique. Ning Yunji said with a smile. Not enough. If I win, I want the great immortal slaying technique and the great immortal trapping technique. Gu Tongtian's eyes flashed sharply. Ning Yunji frowned slightly. The great immortal slaying technique and the great immortal trapping technique were the foundation of the heavenly immortal sect. He did not expect Gu Tongtian to be so greedy. But he really coveted the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor. He believed that if he had the chance to comprehend the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Emperor, he would definitely be able to carve out his own path. The Supreme Emperor Dao. All right. I promise you. Ning Yunji gritted his teeth and said after a moment of silence. Although he was full of confidence in the Sword Heart Saint, this was a huge gamble and there was still a huge risk. But when he thought of the Sword Heart Saint's trump card, he felt more at ease. Words are no guarantee. Make an ultimate heart demon oath. Gu Tongtian said. Ning Yunji naturally had no objections. Together with Gu Tongtian, they both made an ultimate heart demon oath. If they violated the ultimate heart demon oath, they would be devoured. If they suffered chi deviation, their cultivation would be greatly damaged. In the worst case, their souls would be destroyed and they would be devoured by their inner demons, never to be reincarnated. For celestial masters who had comprehended the origin of the great Tao, no one dared to violate the ultimate heart demon oath. Very well. Ning Yunji, prepare the great immortal slaying technique and the great immortal trapping technique. I'm sure I'll win. Gu Tongtian said with a faint smile. His eyes were full of confidence. Is that so? The Sword Heart won't lose so easily. Ning Yunji also said with a faint smile. Speaking of which, Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint had already made 2 bets. One was the immortal slaying sword and the fragments of the divine cauldron. The other was the portrait of the Grandmaster Great Immortal Slaying Technique and the Great Immortal Trapping Technique. Even Tai Qingzi and the old man in a Taoist robe beside the 9th prince were slightly surprised. Between Gu Tongtian and Ning Yunji, it could be considered a heaven-shaking gamble. Chapter 30:19. Inside the Immortal Demon Cave. When Ling Zhao's vision became clear again, he was already in an ancient forest. He was alone. The huge whirlpool in the Immortal Demon Cave was originally a void passage. However, because the Immortal Demon Cave was the battlefield of the emperors, countless great Tao laws intertwined and the emperor's Tao was extremely chaotic, causing the void passage to be messed up. Even if one entered the Immortal Demon Cave, they could be transported to anywhere. Unfortunately, there was no one around Ling Xiao. There were towering ancient trees all around. The giant ancient trees were thousands of feet tall, and they were as thick as a dozen people hugging around them. Giant python-like vines wrapped around the trees and stretched upwards, greedily absorbing the weak sunlight. The ground was covered with thick leaves. One could tell that this place was very wild and uninhabited. Whoosh! Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He immediately retracted his aura and flew up to the top of the tree. What a vast forest! Is this the forest of life? Ling Xiao muttered to himself. In the distance, the mountain range was undulating, but it was filled with all kinds of towering ancient trees, forming a huge forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. Moreover, due to the chaotic emperor's Tao laws in the Immortal Demon Cave, it suppressed one's primordial spirit and perception greatly. Ling Xiao could only sense about 1,000 miles around him. Before entering the Immortal Demon Cave, Ling Xiao had already obtained a map of the Immortal Demon Cave. It was the map that the 6 major sects had exchanged blood and lives for over countless years. It was extremely precious, and it recorded the locations of some of the forbidden areas of the Immortal Demon Cave. The Forest of Life was one of the forbidden areas. The Forest of Life was an incomparably huge forest that stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles. It was filled with various types of towering ancient trees that were full of vitality. There were countless exotic flowers and herbs, and even immortal and sacred herbs that were extinct in the immortal world. However, there were no animals in the Forest of Life. This was because the Forest of Life was shrouded in an extremely strange law that could devour the vitality of living beings. The longer one stayed in the Forest of Life, the faster their vitality would be devoured. Even an immortal monarch expert would turn into a pile of bones if they stayed in the forest of life for 3 days. Buzz. Ling Xiao's body trembled slightly as he felt the surrounding void vibrating. It was as if there was an extremely strange law that surged towards him like a fishing net, trying to devour all the vitality in his body. The feeling of being devoured was incomparably weak. Ordinary people would not even be able to detect it. However, Ling Xiao's senses were extremely sharp. Even the slightest loss of life force was immediately detected by him. What a strange law of devour. It's like some kind of extreme power. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. His physical body was incomparably powerful. It was the primordial immortal body, and he had even fused with the chaos divine bone. He had proven his Tao with 12 types of great Tao origins, so his physical body was extremely powerful. In addition, Ling Xiao still had the wordless heavenly book and the jade disc of fortune, 2 chaos treasures, but Ling Xiao could still feel his vitality draining away, even though the loss of life force was very weak. Looks like I have to leave the forest of life as soon as possible. Ling Xiao thought to himself as he prepared to leave this place first. The immortal demon grotto was extremely strange. This was the true battlefield of great emperors. Legend had it that more than one great emperor had fallen here. After a great emperor fell, their extreme Tao power would repel the laws of heaven and earth around them, forming a mysterious area. This was also the origin of the forbidden area in the immortal demon grotto. Many people guessed that an extremely powerful great emperor must have fallen in the forest of life. However, because of the forest of life's strange ability to devour life force, many people stayed away from the forest of life. I have to find Zhang Chun and the others first. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Although the 6 great divine sects and the 9 great immortal sects had the same number of people, the disciples of the 6 great divine sects were obviously much weaker. If they didn't find the disciples of the 6 great divine sects in time, they would be easily defeated and killed by the 9 great immortal sects. Everyone knew that there was only one goal in entering the immortal demon grotto, and that was to kill as many opponents as possible. Although there weren't any ferocious beasts in the forest of life, some of the plants had mutated and become monsters. They were extremely powerful. The strange thing was that the forest of life would devour the life force of animals, but it didn't affect the plants. In order to prevent any accidents, Ling Xiao retracted his aura and stepped into the void. He hid in the treetops and silently flew into the distance. Suddenly, the sound of fighting came from ahead. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Could it be that the Immortal Clan and the Immortal Clan were transported into the forest of life and started fighting? Ling Xiao thought and instantly flew towards the direction of the fight. Boom! A sharp flash of sword light descended and severed a huge vine. Green juice splattered everywhere, containing extremely powerful corrosive properties. It caused the surrounding trees to sizzle as a large area was corroded. 4 or 5 young men in white robes with immortal swords in their hands formed the sword formation of the 4 divisions. They surrounded a huge vine in the center. That vine's roots were extremely thick and strong. Black fog surrounded it, and a ferocious human face appeared. Hundreds of tentacles danced, each as fast as lightning, as if they could pierce through everything. This was a vine demon. However, the vine demon looked extremely miserable. More than half of its tentacles had been cut off, and only a dozen thick tentacles were left. They emitted a metallic luster and were extremely sturdy. They kept blocking the sword chi that came from all directions. However, it seemed that the vine demon couldn't hold on for much longer. Whoosh! 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 The immortal swords in the hands of the 4 young men suddenly emitted a dazzling light. For powerful sword chi soared into the sky and instantly merged into one in the void. It turned into a huge sword chi that was tens of thousands of feet long, and slashed down from the sky. Puff! Although the vine demon let out a sharp cry, it was still cut in half and completely killed. However, the 4 young men in white robes also looked very miserable. There were some bloodstains on their bodies. In the process of fighting the vine demon, they still suffered some injuries. They only breathed a sigh of relief when the vine demon was completely killed by them. What a difficult vine demon. If we didn't cultivate the sword formation of the 4 divisions, I'm afraid the 4 of us would have fallen into its trap. A young man in white robes wiped the sweat on his forehead and said with some lingering fear, "This kind of vine demon is very common in the forest of life. We still have to be careful. Everyone, restrain your aura. The most important thing for us is to find the entrance to the ruins. This is the most important thing that the saint has instructed us to do." The leading young man in white robes said with a serious expression, "Yes." The other 3 young men in white robes nodded in unison. Eternal Emperor. Chapter 30-20. Whoosh. The 4 of them used a secret technique to restrain their auras and headed towards the depths of the forest of life silently. People from the true martial immortal sect? Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat as he recognized the origins of these 4 white-robed youths. The true martial immortal sect was one of the sects that kept a low profile. However, the strength of their disciples was extremely strong. For example, they had sent a total of more than 10 disciples of the monarch realm. The 4 white-robed youths were at the first heaven of the monarch realm. Outside the cave of the immortal demon, the 4 white-robed youths and the holy son of the true martial immortal sect had shown killing intent towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao originally wanted to kill the 4 white-robed youths directly. However, when he heard them talking about the entrance of the relic, he could not help but be tempted and began to bide his time. The entrance of the relic? Could it be the place of inheritance of the great emperor? Ling Xiao thought to himself. The forest of life was extremely strange. In the past, even the 9 sects would take a detour and not dare to enter the forest of life. However, from the words of the 4 disciples of the true martial immortal sect, did they find some kind of relic in the forest of life? Looks like the true martial immortal sect must have discovered the secret of the forest of life during the previous immortal demon conference. Let's see what the relic they are talking about is first. Ling Zhao's mind spun, and he immediately followed after him. The 4 white-robed youths from the true martial immortal sect were not fast. Although they had retracted their auras, they were still extremely vigilant and slowly flew forward as if they were facing a great enemy. Ling Xiao followed them and flew towards the depths of the forest of life for tens of thousands of miles. In this tens of thousands of miles, the 4 white-robed youths encountered the vine demons twice. However, they managed to pass through them safely. Among them, there was even a 10,000-year ancient tree that was stronger than the vine demons. In the end, they had to use a celestial sword talisman to kill the tree demon. The 4 white-robed youths also had many more wounds on their bodies. In the depths of the forest of life, the white mist was faintly discernible. The mist was actually formed by the pure life origin. It made people feel energized when they took a breath of it. The trees here were also getting thicker and thicker. Some of them were even tens of thousands of feet tall, like mountains. It was incomparably terrifying. Ling Xiao felt a sense of danger from the trees. They were not as simple as they appeared to be. Perhaps they had already become demons. Moreover, although the white mist was formed from life origin, Ling Xiao instinctively sensed that if he dared to devour it, something unexpected would happen. Therefore, Ling Xiao still concealed his aura and did not devour any of the white mist. He quietly followed behind the 4 people from the true martial immortal sect. Soon, the 4 white-robed young men stopped in a valley. In the valley, there were already disciples in white robes rushing over. However, all of them were at the high immortal realm and above. Anyone below the high immortal realm who dared to enter the forest of life was simply courting death. In the valley, many white-robed disciples were like stars surrounding the moon. In the center stood a young man with an imposing appearance. He wore a white robe, had a slender figure, and a handsome face. However, his eyes were incomparably sharp and cold. He exuded a powerful aura around him. His cultivation had already reached the 3rd heaven of the high immortal realm. Wu Xingqian. Ling Zhao's eyes flickered as he recognized the arrogant young man. He was the holy son of the true martial immortal sect, Wu Xingqian. As though there was an agreement, all the disciples of the high immortal realm and above from the true martial immortal sect came from all directions to the valley. Greetings, holy son. The 4 white-robed young men entered the valley and cupped their fists at Wu Xingqian. Their eyes were filled with respect. You're late, Wu Xingqian said indifferently. Holy Sun, please forgive us. We were sent a little too far away and encountered some vine demons on our way here. That's why we're late. The 4 white-robed young men explained. It's fine that you're late, but why did you bring a tail? Wu Xingchen said indifferently. What? The 4 white-robed young men's faces changed. They turned around abruptly, and their eyes were filled with vigilance. The disciples of the true martial immortal sect standing beside Wu Xingchen also exuded a powerful aura. Their eyes were like lightning as they scanned their surroundings. However, they did not notice anything. What sharp senses! Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Still not coming out? Wu Xingchen's eyes flashed coldly as he pointed his finger in the air. A sharp finger radiance instantly pierced through the layers of space and shot towards Ling Xiao. He had indeed discovered Ling Xiao. Boom! Ling Xiao revealed himself and threw out a simple punch towards Wu Xingchen's finger radiance. Chaotic light suddenly bloomed. The unparalleled fist print was overbearing and ferocious. It instantly shattered the finger radiance. Ling Zhao's figure appeared in front of the disciples of the true martial immortal sect. Lei Ling, how dare you follow us? The 4 white-robed young men were shocked and angry as they glared at Ling Xiao. They didn't expect Ling Xiao to follow them all the way to this valley. You're courting death. The many disciples of the true martial immortal sect all revealed ominous looks. In an instant, they leaped over and surrounded Ling Xiao. Their eyes revealed cold killing intent. Lei Ling, how dare you? Wu Xingchen stared coldly at Ling Xiao and shouted condescendingly. Ling Zhao's expression was calm and indifferent, as if he didn't put the surrounding true martial immortal sect's disciples in his eyes at all. His gaze fell on Wu Xingchen, and he smiled indifferently. I've always been very bold. Wu Xingchen, I'm curious. What relic did you find? Wu Xingchen's eyes flashed coldly. Ling Xiao knew about the relic. The 4 white-robed young men trembled, and did not dare to look at Wu Xingchen. Lei Ling, do you know that you're playing with fire? Wu Xingchen enunciated each word expressionlessly. What? Are you trying to silence me? Ling Xiao said with a smile. You're courting death. Do you really think that you can behave atrociously in front of me just because your physical body is strong, and you're lucky enough to defeat Ren Tianjue? Don't you want to know what relic it is? When you're dead, I'll burn it for you. Wu Xingchen's eyes flashed coldly as he walked towards Ling Xiao with a thunderous voice. A terrifying emperor's aura erupted from his body. Chapter 30-21. Rumble. The void trembled violently. Wu Xingchen and the immortal monarchs of the true martial immortal sect glared at Ling Xiao coldly. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. Immortal light gathered around them as the origin of the great Tao intertwined. Vaguely, their auras merged into one, causing their strength to rise. The power of a battle formation? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He sensed that the people of the true martial immortal sect had formed a powerful battle formation in an instant. This battle formation seemed to have fused everyone's power and gathered it on Wu Xingchen's body, causing his aura to skyrocket. Kill! Wu Xingchen's eyes flashed with killing intent as he threw a punch at Ling Xiao. His punch was filled with boundless immortal devouring force. It looked like a punch aimed at Ling Xiao, but thousands of trails appeared in the void. It was as if thousands of fists were attacking Ling Xiao at the same time, covering all his vital points. This was the true martial emperor fist. Wu Xingchen looked domineering and wanted to kill Ling Xiao to silence him. However, when he saw Ling Xiao defeating Ren Tianjue with a single punch, he became extremely vigilant. Therefore, not only did he order all the disciples of the true martial immortal sect to form the true martial battle formation, but he also used the supreme immortal emperor technique, the true martial emperor fist. Wu Xingchen believed that with the true martial battle formation and the true martial emperor fist, even a fourth heaven immortal monarch would be severely injured, if not killed. With this punch, a majestic emperor's aura spread out. It was as if the true martial great emperor had descended to suppress all enemies. Great! Ling Zhao's eyes lit up. This saint son of the true martial immortal sect actually had an incomparably strong fighting instinct. Moreover, he had cultivated the true martial emperor fist to an incomparably profound level. This fist contained the true meaning of martial arts, and had a kind of imposing manner that could suppress the heavens and earth. Ling Xiao did not hesitate and threw out a punch as well. Chaotic qi swirled around his body, vaguely in the shape of a dragon. It was as if an azure dragon was circling around him, domineering and mysterious. Around him, there was a faint image of 3,000 worlds rising. Since Ling Xiao had merged with the chaotic divine bone, his primordial immortal body had become even more terrifying. All his strength could be merged with the chaotic divine bone, allowing him to unleash his full strength. Therefore, his casual attack was even more terrifying than when he had unleashed all his strength before. Crack! Blazing divine light rose in the void as the two unparalleled fist prints collided. In an instant, a boundless storm erupted and swept out in all directions. Ling Xiao and Wu Xingqian's bodies trembled at the same time. Their robes and hair fluttered in the wind. When their gazes collided, it was as if a blazing light was emitted. However, Ling Xiao's figure did not change. Wu Xingqian, on the other hand, felt an invincible divine power attacking him. He immediately retreated, his arm trembling violently as if he had lost all feeling in it. Damn it! Wu Xingqian's face turned ashen in disbelief. He had gathered the power of the true martial battle formation, and the cultivation of many true martial immortal sect disciples, but he was still knocked back by Ling Xiao's punch. Why don't you try taking a punch from me too? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His eyes became extremely sharp, and the aura around him became extremely violent. His qi and blood soared, domineering and mysterious. He leaped into the air and punched out. The fist print seemed to have come from the chaos. It was intertwined with endless killing intent. The mysterious scene of reincarnation and the death of tens of thousands of creatures vaguely appeared. It was as if the supreme ruler was going to reincarnate and create another era. The epic fist. After Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through to the imperial emperor realm, his epic fist had finally reached the great success stage. It had merged with the power of the 12 great Tao origins, making this fist extremely terrifying. Before the fist arrived, the momentum was already there. Wu Xingqian's eyes seemed to have lost everything except for Ling Xiao's fist. His entire body trembled violently, as if he was controlled by Ling Xiao's fist intent, and had lost his mind. 7 strokes of heaven interception kill. Wu Xingqian roared. The celestial light around him boiled, and it was as if endless sword qi was gushing out. He regained control of his mind in an instant. Then the ancient sword in his hand shone with endless light, and he slashed down at Ling Xiao. The 7 strokes of heaven interception was the supreme immortal technique of the Zhenwu immortal sect. Legend had it that it was the supreme sword technique left behind by the Zhenwu immortal emperor. It was known as the 3 supreme sword techniques of the immortal world, along with the 4 great immortal techniques of the Grandmaster Immortal Emperor, and the eternal sword scripture of the eternal immortal dynasty. When this sword slashed out, it seemed to have a mysterious sword intent that could destroy the chaos and shatter the heavens. Rumble! The sword radiance swept out in all directions and collided with the fist prints in the sky. It was as if billions of Ling Xiao and Wu Xingqian's figures were fighting. In an instant, tens of thousands of attacks had collided. In the end, the sword qi in the sky was shattered. Wu Xingqian coughed out blood and retreated. His face was extremely pale, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He had used the 7 strokes of heaven interception, but he was still defeated by Ling Xiao's fist. The supreme sword qi of the 7 strokes of heaven interception could destroy everything, but it only left an extremely small wound on Ling Xiao's body. Even Ling Xiao's fist prints could not break it. On the contrary, he could not withstand Ling Xiao's epic fist at all. His body was instantly injured. Crack! After Wu Xingqian was severely injured by Ling Xiao's epic fist, the Zhenwu battle formation shook violently and a flaw appeared. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. In an instant, endless divine light gushed out. Chaotic gas rose and shrouded the valley. It was as if a mysterious scene of the creation of heaven and earth had appeared. Ling Xiao instantly blasted out more than a dozen fist prints. The dozen immortal masters of the true martial immortal sect could not help but turn pale. They could not withstand Ling Xiao's fist prints at all. Their bodies trembled violently, and they flew out as if they had been struck by lightning. They coughed out blood continuously. The Zhenwu battle formation was broken in an instant. Their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Ling Xiao was like an ancient giant beast in front of them. He had the power to destroy heaven and earth. Even with so many of them, they could not trap Ling Xiao. Kill. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with killing intent. Like a bolt of golden lightning, he flew across the sky and attacked the dozen immortal masters of the true martial immortal sect, with his invincible fist prints. Puff. Puff. Ling Xiao's fist prints were too overbearing. How could the true martial immortal sect's disciples withstand them? Almost instantly, 3 immortal masters were blasted apart by Ling Xiao. Their physical bodies and indestructible primordial spirits exploded into a bloody mist. Their souls were completely scattered. Lei Ling, you deserve to die. Wu Xingqian's eyes turned red instantly. These were the hopes of the true martial immortal sect. Now, in the hands of Ling Xiao, they could not even resist and were massacred wantonly. This made him extremely angry and he felt as if his heart was bleeding. Chapter 30-22. Clang. A strange sword chime shook the void. Extreme Emperor aura gushed out from Wu Xingqian's palm. In an instant, an ancient sword that was neither gold nor jade appeared. There were strange runes on it, and it shone with boundless light. The Extreme Emperor weapon of the true martial immortal sect, the true martial sword. As the holy son of the true martial immortal sect, Wu Xingqian naturally had a trump card to protect his life. In order to prevent him from dying in the immortal demon cave, the true martial immortal sect had handed the true martial sword to him. Now that he saw how powerful Ling Xiao was and how he was massacring the disciples of the true martial immortal sect, he was forced to use the true martial sword. The moment the true martial sword appeared, the surrounding void roared. Billions of sword qi resonated, and the flowers and trees trembled. They were affected by the powerful sword essence, as though they were worshipping the true martial sword. Even Ling Xiao felt a strong sense of danger. Although the 7 strokes of heaven interception could not break through Ling Xiao's physical defense, the true martial sword could definitely hurt him. Extreme Emperor weapon? Come and have a taste of my immortal culling sword. Ling Xiao sneered. The immortal culling sword appeared in his hand, and a terrifying murderous aura burst out. It rose up and flew towards the true martial sword. Rumble. The 2 Extreme Emperor weapons collided, and a loud roar erupted. Endless light swept out in all directions, causing the valley to tremble violently. The Extreme Emperor's aura spread out, startling many of the tree demons in the Forest of Life, causing them to show signs of fear. With the immortal culling sword blocking the true martial sword, Ling Xiao did not hesitate. He struck out like lightning, and his speed was extremely fast. Although the dozen immortal dukes of the true martial immortal sect had the same cultivation as Ling Xiao, which was the first heaven of immortal dukes, they could not withstand a single blow from Ling Xiao. Very quickly, those dozen over people were completely wiped out by Ling Xiao. In the valley, only Ling Xiao and Wu Xingqian were left. Looking at the broken limbs around them, the valley was filled with a strong smell of blood. The flesh and blood contained a vast amount of origin energy, causing the plants in the valley to grow rapidly. Furthermore, that strange aura spread out as if it could devour all life. It instantly caused the flesh and blood to wither at a speed visible to the naked eye, before turning into ashes. A gust of wind blew past. It was as if only Ling Xiao and Wu Xingqian had appeared in the valley. It was as if the disciples of the true martial immortal sect had never appeared. Even Ling Xiao's heart was shaken when he saw such a strange scene. What a tyrannical devouring power! Lei Ling, my true martial immortal sect, and you are irreconcilable. Wu Xingqian's eyes were filled with hatred as he roared at Ling Xiao. But to Ling Xiao's surprise, Wu Xingqian didn't come up to fight Ling Xiao. Instead, he called back the Zhenwu sword, took out an immortal talisman, and slapped it on himself. Then, he disappeared from the valley without a trace. You sure run fast. Ling Xiao muttered to himself in surprise. This Wu Xingqian did not look like a brute. After all, to be able to become the holy son of the true martial immortal sect, regardless of talent or intelligence, he was outstanding. Wu Xingqian knew that he was no match for Ling Xiao, so he didn't let his anger get to his head. Instead, he ran away decisively. With the Zhenwu sword in his hand, he devoured an immortal talisman. He took out an immortal talisman, and even Ling Xiao couldn't stop him in time. I killed too quickly just now. I forgot to spare the life of a disciple of the true martial immortal sect, so that I could interrogate him about the entrance to the ruins. Ling Xiao looked at the empty valley and laughed bitterly. However, these disciples of the true martial immortal sect probably don't know where the entrance to the ruins is. Only Wu Xingqian knows this secret. Ling Xiao thought to himself, and the gloominess in his heart dissipated. He started to investigate the valley carefully. The valley wasn't big. It was only about 1,000 feet in radius. On the surrounding mountain walls, there were all kinds of vines. There were some strange flowers and herbs in the valley. It didn't look like there was anything special about it. However, since the disciples of the true martial immortal sect were here, it meant that the entrance to the ruins must be here. Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit spread out and covered the entire valley. He investigated inch by inch. Soon, Ling Xiao found something strange. In the valley there was a bare stone. It looked as smooth as jade and looked very ordinary. However, Ling Xiao noticed that this stone was extremely hard. There wasn't any moss growing on it. This stone is strange. Ling Xiao investigated for a while. The indestructible primordial spirit enveloped the stone, but he still couldn't find out what secrets this stone had. However, when Ling Xiao's primordial spirit touched the depths of the stone, there was a strong rebounding force that directly repelled Ling Xiao's primordial spirit. I'd like to see what's here. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. The chaotic light around him surged and his blood boiled. He threw out a punch. Boom. The unparalleled fist print directly hit the stone. Although the stone was extremely hard, it couldn't withstand Ling Xiao's fist print. In an instant, it broke into pieces and completely shattered. However, in the middle of the stone, there was an extremely bright light that bloomed. Rumble. The light was dazzling and instantly rose as if it was daytime. Accompanied by the blazing sound of thunder, it turned into an extremely powerful devouring vortex in front of Ling Xiao. After the devouring vortex appeared, all the flowers and trees in the valley instantly withered. It was as if all their vitality had been sucked out. The majestic devouring power surged and enveloped Ling Xiao's entire body. It contained an unparalleled power. Even though Ling Xiao's cultivation was strong, he still felt that his strength was insignificant in front of this devouring power. In an instant, he was swallowed by the vortex. However, Ling Xiao didn't feel any danger. After entering the vortex, Ling Xiao felt as if he had entered a space-time tunnel. However, this state didn't last for long. Soon, the light in front of Ling Xiao flickered, and he appeared in an unfamiliar space. Where is this place? Ling Xiao was slightly stunned. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes. In front of him was an extremely dark space. It was like a world that was about to be destroyed. The sky was vast and the earth was vast. It was incomparably lonely. But in front of Ling Xiao was a broken stone tablet. It looked incomparably ancient, and there were even some dried blood stains on it. It exuded the mottled aura of the passage of time, and it faintly revealed several characters carved in ancient divine runes. Devouring Emperor. The remaining 4 large words were written in a flamboyant and domineering style. It seemed to contain a terrifying power that wanted to devour everything. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.